Okay, thank you, Brad, for getting us set up. We're live on YouTube. Welcome, everyone, to the December 1st, 2020 Board of Trustees meeting for the Windsor Unified School District. We are here on YouTube Live, and we have a large, about 23 of us, it looks like, on the Zoom call. So we hope that you are able to enjoy the meeting tonight and go through a lot of the information that we have to share. We have one more meeting that will come up later in the month, but we're nearing the end of the first semester of school, and so we're glad to look forward to a winter break, and we will reconvene again in January after that. So at this time, we'd like to follow our agenda. So if we could have a roll call, please, by Jen Cox.
President Heights.
Here.
Vice President Maud.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Carnation.
Here.
Trustee Valenzuela.
Here.
And Student Board Member Ava Hammelberg.
Here.
Thank you, Jenny. We have everybody in attendance. We're ready to go. At this time, we will do our traditional flag salute, and that will be led by Trustee Valenzuela tonight.
I'm just going to share my screen.
Okay, put your right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much, George. I appreciate you doing that for us tonight. Superintendent Decker, do we have a report out of closed session tonight? Anything you'd like to share?
We don't have any report out of closed session tonight.
Okay, thank you. We did have a good, robust conversation about a few topics, but nothing to share tonight, so that's good. The opening item section, item 4 on our agenda, asks for any adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments from the trustees or the district staff that need to happen tonight? Okay, seeing lots of heads shake no. Lois, you have something you'd like to mention?
I wanted to make sure that we were going to allow our guest Phil Villagomez speak. He's the first action discussion item, and we wanted him to go before the just plain discussion items so that he wasn't waiting all that time.
So that is in section
7.
Section 7. So we can have that be the first item of section 7. So is that Terra Verde? Is that what you're asking about?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Asking him to be ahead of the construction update.
Okay, so we'll move item 7.1 ahead of item 6.1 after consent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'll try to remember that. If I mess it up, correct me, please. All right, so we will work on having that happen when we get closer to it. Let's see, I'm looking on my other device here. Item 4.2 is celebrating success. So we have with us tonight Principal Julie Stern from Maddie Washburn Elementary. If she would like to present to us first, please welcome Julie. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, President Heights, and good evening, Superintendent Decker and all the wonderful board members and everybody else. Thank you for having me here for our celebration of success. I do have a few things that I wanted to share of things that are happening at Maddie Washburn that we're really proud of and that have been really working great. As you know, we're in distance learning, and one of our biggest things is for our kiddos, their social, emotional aspects of their day-to-day learning. And so we have been brainstorming on ways that we can be connecting with our kids in other ways, rather, just not academics. And so one of our big success stories is that Kathy Clinton, our librarian, she came to me and she wanted to start a coloring club. So we started with that small idea, and we created a Zoom and we did a coloring club. And then we decided to span it all the way out to all of our support staff. So now we run a coloring club, a reading club, a Lego club, a Play-Doh club, an academic sharing club, just a fun sharing club, a lunch club. And the kiddos, if these are all optional, they can come on and have more time with other people from our staff that care about these kiddos. And it's just a great time because our time is really limited with the kids on the Zoom with their teachers, and sometimes the 24 kids, we don't get to hear all their stories. So this has been a fabulous way where kids can come and really just talk about things that interest them. So we're very proud about that. We've also been working on our character counts. Right now we're in the month, we're talking about responsibility. And every single week I do a little YouTube video and I do shout outs to kids that have been caught being responsible. And families or teachers write me during the week, and I get to read a whole list of kids that are responsible. Last month we worked on respectful. January and February we're going to move into caring. So it's just a really great way to be connecting with our families. They're very appreciative of having these shout outs to their kiddos. And our last success today was one of our first PD days that we got a little extra time, and I'm very thankful to Superintendent Decker. We were granted 2 extra days where our staff could have, they met for just the morning Zoom so that we continue with our responsive classroom, but we worked today for many hours on looking at our trimester 2, looking at the different standards, looking at the items that maybe we could push emphasis on for those power standards and take out a couple of things because we know that we have less time than we would normally would with kids. And the staff was so appreciative of this extra time. And I just wanted to say that it was a huge success. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Principal Stern. I appreciate that. I've used, as a teacher, junior high and high school, I've used the character counts program when I taught a life skills elective in the junior high area and the high school area. And it does have a profound meaning behind it. And so it's very, very positive and very enriching for the kids and the family. So I'm glad you're using that. Anyone would like to address Principal Stern about her report? Okay, a couple good thumbs up there, but we're glad you're here tonight. And thank you for sharing with us all the good things that are happening at Maddie Washburn.
Always happy to share the amazing stuff that's happening there. So I'm very proud of our staff.
All right. And also part of this item 4.2 was the Maddie Washburn celebrating success, but also added to the end of that is what we call a staff recognition. And we have a very special situation tonight. Trustee Valenzuela, this will be his final meeting as a school board trustee. He has been active on the board, first elected in 2008, and he chose to step down after this year's term or this last term. So George has been given a full 12 years of district service as a trustee. I think 3 different times he was a president of the board. He's been very active in lots of situations in the district, bond measures and reconfigurations and lots of hiring. I think I made note that he's helped hire 6 different superintendents, including Mr. Decker that we currently have. So hopefully that's not a forecasting of something negative in the future, but we hope we've got some tenure here coming forward, Jeremy. So on behalf of the trustees, and I'd like to acknowledge that Mrs. Valenzuela, Rachel, she's here with us tonight. I don't know if George realized that or not yet, but at their house, she's in another room, I think. So, or maybe right across the table, I don't know. But the board drafted a letter of appreciation. So I would like to read that. And I think you have a copy of that at your house there. You could share with George. So I will read the following. This is titled or dated December 1st of 2020. It says, "Dear esteemed trustee George Valenzuela, as your time on the Windsor Unified School District Board of Trustees draws to a close, we want to express our sincere gratitude for your service and leadership. Board service is a difficult community elected position, and you took on your board duties with dedication, grace, and seriousness. We are most grateful for your active and engaging leadership as a judicious steward of our district and the Windsor community. It is known by all that you always carefully deliberated on matters before the board, even when the decisions were difficult. Not seeking a fourth term was clearly a difficult decision for you, and we respect your decision. 12 years of district service is an extremely admirable feat, and one the students, teachers, classified, and administrative staffs of the Windsor Unified School District have appreciated beyond words. To quote author David Starr Jordan, "Wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it. Your work as a WUSD trustee and president was both wise and virtuous, and we are grateful you shared those qualities with us and for the students of Windsor Unified. Your leadership has helped us all become better trustees, and as we move forward, your guidance, words of wisdom, and the experiences you have shared with each of us will be remembered and fostered. Sincerely, signed by all 4 of the trustees that are currently on board." So personally, I'll be the first one to go. I'd like to also acknowledge George with a plaque that was sent to him with his wife there that comes from the district office staff. And
We're in separate rooms. I'm downstairs, she's upstairs, so stuff
Well, you
keeps
better
coming
go
down
a
the
while.
stairs.
In addition to the plaque that you'll be receiving, we decided we'd like to do something extra for you. And so at the Windsor High School, we have a new quad that's been recently built, as you know. And in that quad, there's a grove of redwood trees. And one of those trees will be dedicated as the George Valenzuela tree.
Wow.
So you can you can walk by there anytime you want, visit your tree, remember your days in service on the board, and watch as it grows and develops into something wonderful in the future. So we're appreciative of you, George. I know that it seems like in my tenure, the last 6 years, that I've followed you as when you were president, I became president the next year. And you've been a tremendous help to me with, knowing how to run the meetings, making sure to understand all the expulsion hearings and all that you're such an expert at. And I very much value your friendship and your work that we've done together. So I'll open it up to the other trustees at this time if they'd like to make a comment to George. I see Bill will be first.
Yeah, George, thank you. And thank you, Rachel, on my Hollywood Squares screen. You're in one corner and you're passing it up to George in the upper corner. George, I think, brother, you have been a voice of conscience for us. Conscience is good, it's helpful, but conscience I found is particularly helpful when somebody has the rudder and shares with their colleagues the courageous conversations. We've had them on the camera in open session, and as you know, and all the other trustees and some of the staff knows, particularly in closed session to help us kind of get our head and our hearts around where we're going. I was thinking at 400 or 500 kids a year throughput, that's 6,000 kids that have been coming through the schools on your watch. And that is a tremendous legacy. I will miss your company. I hope you and your dog enjoy the tree over at as I know you like to walk over there. So I will miss you very, very much. And Rachel, you can have him back on Tuesday nights now. So thank you, George, for your service.
Trustee Ahmad, you'd like to make a comment?
Yes, so George was very welcoming when I joined the board a couple years ago, and having so much institutional knowledge that you do, it's just been really reassuring to serve with you because you can, from personal experience, reference things that have happened, what might be a good idea, what might not. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the balance that you have between kind of working towards the things you believe in, but also making hard decisions when they need to be made. And I think you're really good at that. And it's been helpful to learn from you in that regard as well. And I think you're just a very honest person, and that's helpful because you're honest with everyone about what you think about their ideas, good or bad. You give very good feedback. So we'll miss you and I'll miss you. And I appreciate these last 2 years we've gotten to serve together.
Trustee Carnation, would you like to say something to George?
Yeah, Bill and Stephanie both, and everyone's has kind of touched on it, but George, you leave with a lot of institutional knowledge about the district, as well as just knowledge because of your profession. As I told you, when we were in the parking lot one night after a board meeting, I expressed to you my appreciation for how you handled yourself as the board president for that year. And I thought you did an excellent job because of the way that you handle yourself. Whether you agree with somebody's position or their opinion or not, you always gave them respect, let them have time, me and others, to express it and discuss it and work our ways through it. Even though you may have already knew the answers to some things, you gave us the time to learn along the way, and you were patient. And patience is something in politics right now that's pretty rare and not very apparent, at least nationally. So anyhow, we are going to miss you. Only in our meetings. We know that you're a resource that we can always draw on. You're here, you're part of our town and our community and our families. And speaking of families, I'd love to hear how excited Rachel is to have you back. And I can't wait to see that big list of Tuesday night honeydews that she, I hope, has presented for you. So, but thanks a lot, George. It's been great. We appreciate your support, and good luck to you.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, George, on your time in service here?
Well, I don't know how much time you have. I could probably talk for an hour, but that's one thing about board members. We love to talk. So that's just something, it's part of the business. I just want to thank my wife and kids. It's been 12 years. I can't believe it's gone by so fast. And, you know, I got into the business being, having my Hillary Clinton moment at Windsor High School. I broke down and I started crying about something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was equity or diversity. And I'm leaving the same way. You know, I feel my wife always laughs at me. She says, "Oh, you're too emotional." I said, "No, I'm passionate." So it's been a good run, 12 years. You know, thank you for all the kind words. And, you know, it went by. I came in as a rookie in 2008, and I thought I knew everything because I worked in education. And first thing you learn as a board member is you don't know everything and you have to work with other people. So I learned a lot about the district, a lot about myself. And I enjoyed watching kids graduate, seeing my 3 boys, go through the system. And I'm going to miss you all. You know, I could go on forever, but I was telling the board in closed session, I feel like it's a graduation, not a retirement, but now I think I changed my mind. It feels like a retirement, not a graduation. I have a tree, I have a plaque, I have a letter. I feel like I'm ready to die tomorrow. But yeah, you know, it's time to go and do some other things. And I want to thank you all. We have some wonderful teachers, wonderful administrators, great unions, classified, wonderful superintendents from Harrington to Decker, wonderful board members. You guys are in good hands. You have a veteran superintendent, veteran board, veteran district office, all of you on the screen. I've known you individually for the most part, almost 99% of you. And again, thank you, my wife and my boys. And I think I'll leave it at that because I'll just keep mumbling. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. And I'll try to stick it out for the whole meeting.
Yes, thank you, George. And you mentioned the union relationship, and I know that Mr. Stephaniscos and Mr. Freeland wanted to say a word or two about your relationship you've had over the years. So Pete, would you like to go first? You're muted, sir.
You know, George, WDA has always been happy to work with you over the years. I feel like you're always there to listen and kept the best interest of students and the district at heart. You've been a true supporter for all students and especially an important voice for our Latinx students. Thank you for your service, George, and best wishes in the future.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, and Brad, did you have a few words you wanted to say also for Trustee Valenzuela's leaving us tonight?
Yes, George, thank you for your years of service, especially to Windsor Unified and to the community. I was hired the same year you became a school board trustee, and we've been through a lot. Yeah. Not that anything has changed, but your knowledge of the history of Windsor Unified School District will be missed, as well as the wisdom you bring. So thank you very much. And Leslie Perry says hi.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks, Brad. Tell her I said hi.
And I'm sure we could go on all night with everybody in the meeting wanting to give special thanks and stories and things like that. I don't know that George necessarily wants that for us all to do tonight. But if you'd like to put something in the chat, I'm sure he'll follow along, or if you'd like to send him an email in the next couple days, I'm sure he'd appreciate receiving that or hearing back from you.
What
Anyone
about
else?
Rachel?
Superintendent Decker?
I think Rachel wanted to talk.
Oh, yes, Rachel. Yes, I've forgotten about
She's our public comment and open session items.
Thank you for giving me a moment. I actually prepared some words.
Great, thank you.
I wouldn't be able to think on the spot. The good news is I'm not the emotional type of person, so you won't see tears today. But I am grateful that he's coming home now. I feel like he's going to be ours now. But as a Windsor parent, a community member, a fellow educator and wife, I'm thankful and proud of George's service as a school board member. He first entered the ranks as a trustee, motivated by an ardent desire to ensure that Cali Calmecac Language Academy had its fair share of attention by district leadership and the school board. However, his unique background, combining his experience and knowledge as a parent, a Latino, a teacher, an administrator, and as former in-house legal counsel for his school district, gave rise to a distinctive lens, a skill set, and awareness that yielded a tremendous benefit to our school district. As a Windsor parent, I'm very grateful for his steadfastness and wisdom during trying times that our district has experienced. Thank you, George, for always maintaining your passion, your commitment for equity and to students first, remembering that for many of them, education is the only door to future opportunities, and you are an excellent example of that. While sometimes I fretted that Windsor was just taking up too much of his time or our family time, I was also blessed. I got to see him shake hands, well, really hug our 3 sons when they were promoted through Cali, and 2 of them through Windsor High School, even though one of them was a drive-by. I'm just really appreciative. And George, I know that I speak for many when I say that I'm thankful, grateful, appreciative of the hand you've had in shaping the educational landscape in the Windsor School District, but it will be nice to have you home more regularly. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I appreciate that. I'm the softie with the emotions as well, and so you almost got me going there. But again, I would like to appreciate George, and you'll be with us the rest of tonight, and then we have a future with Maunoi Lopez coming in on the 15th, so we'll be glad to swear her in. You're welcome to join us that night and hand over the reins a little bit if you'd like to, George. But I know that tonight's your last full meeting. And so I wanted to make sure we did something special for you. And so hopefully you can keep it together the rest of the meeting here, and we'll move forward with that statement there. So thanks again, everyone, for your comments and your congratulations to George. All right, so we'll move forward in our agenda to item 4.3, which is public comment on open session items. And when we're doing these Zoom meetings, we ask for public comment to be sent in prior. And I did not receive any as board president, and Jen Cox is here as our secretary. She usually fosters those forward, but we don't have any public comments that I'm aware of.
I didn't receive anything at all.
Thank you for making sure of that. I didn't want to miss anybody. So at this time, we'll move forward in the agenda. And if you do have a public comment in the future, please make sure that you send that to Jen Cox at our district office. Item 4.4 is the approval of the minutes for the following meetings: the October 15 meeting, the October 20 special meeting, the November 4th meeting, and a November 5th follow-up meeting. If I'd like to ask for a motion to approve item 4.4, the meetings as listed.
Also move.
Thank you, Trustee Adams. And a second motion?
I'll second it.
Trustee Carnation, thank you. All those in favor of approving item 4.4, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, I think George is indisposed at the moment. We'll go 401. So I didn't ask if there were any changes to that, but hopefully you've seen them and you agree with what's listed there. Next on our agenda is item 4.5, the report from our student board member, Ava Hamelberg. So I'll hand off to Ava. Thank you for being here tonight.
Great, thank you. Is my audio okay? Okay, great. So I will get started. I'm very excited about this report. This is my first report after finally meeting with some of my committee members. This here is the high school division of the WUSD Committee for Student Representation. We have freshmen through seniors, and I especially want to acknowledge that top row, those are our seniors. This year they're kind of struggling with finding motivation, but they're doing it. They're putting in the extra time to help me do something great and to represent themselves and try and make this a good year. And then the two on the right side, they are actually joining us from the Santa Rosa district. They go to Santa Rosa High School and Montgomery High School, and they're offering us in just kind of insight from how other districts, other schools are handling everything. And just from the meetings we've had so far, it's just such a good group, and they work really well off of each other. And it's really interesting getting their feedback and just hearing not only what they want changed, but how they think we can change it, which has been really helpful. So 2 weeks ago, we had our first discussion. And if we could go to the next slide, I'll kind of debrief about that. So I met with our freshmen and sophomores from Windsor High School first, because just the core difference, and I know that just their general experiences are going to be a bit different. So the first thing that they really felt has changed is their connection to their classmates and the school. This is especially for the freshmen who don't really feel connected to the school yet and who didn't coming into this year. And one of the things that we talked about a lot just in all of our conversations was the idea of casual classroom friends. So this is just something I kind of wanted to throw out there because we did use this a lot. It's basically the kids that you have in class who you sit with and you do group projects with, but you really don't talk to them outside of class or talking about homework. And because you don't really have those casual interactions, we've noticed that we don't really have casual classroom friends anymore. We really only hang out with our really close circle. Second is that especially the freshman and sophomore students, they're finding it very difficult to connect to teachers. And when I kind of asked, I was like, oh, well, are your teachers not doing office hours? Like, can you talk to them? Many of them said that, yes, their teachers are being great about holding office hours, but especially as underclassmen or even this being their first year at the school, it definitely feels intimidating to them, the idea of going and talking to their teacher one-on-one or in a smaller setting. So that was just another thing where there are means in place, but they're just not comfortable taking advantage of them. And then the next slide, these are our juniors and seniors, which was also super, like, these conversations have been so amazing. I'm so excited to be talking about this because it's been such a good time working with everyone. But juniors and seniors, we're feeling pretty connected to the school. We've been there 2 or 3, like this is our 3rd or 4th year. So this is a lot more technical feedback. A lot of it is breakout rooms from personal experience and also what everyone else was talking about. A lot of our breakout room situations is everyone turns their camera off, everyone turns their mic off, and we just do our work independently. And when we were talking about this, Darius Cuenca, who is our representative from Montgomery High School, he mentioned that he doesn't really have this issue because many of the Montgomery teachers will allow students to request people within their classes when it comes to breakout rooms. And it's not guaranteed at all. It's just taken into consideration. And it is, I mentioned, I was like, that's extra work for the teachers to have to assign breakout rooms. And that's why it doesn't happen every time, but it's just something that's out there so that if there is extra time, the teacher can do that. And it just really leads to actual engagement and collaboration instead of just working independently and kind of cutting off even more social interaction. And then especially with the juniors and seniors, there's a greater feeling of being unmotivated. Especially with the seniors, it's feeling like the past few years haven't really paid off. They are not getting all the fun stuff like prom and just all the things they've been looking forward to. And then again, specifically with the seniors and juniors, they definitely had more insight on what they were expecting this year to be like. So they definitely have some more feedback. The seniors, of course, are still hoping for some sort of graduation celebration. This has kind of been their big thing that we talked about. And I know that the Windsor High School leadership has been working on trying to do something that'll fit along with all the guidelines, but they wanted, that was the big thing that they wanted to make sure I shared with everyone, was that they're still hoping for a celebration. And then also with their motivation, their acceptance into college, many of them have have like early acceptance and everything. And so once they're accepted into college, there's even less motivation to show up for classes, do assignments, just be involved. And then for juniors, and this is kind of, I prompted this because it's how I'm feeling, they're just from the College Board in general, just how college applications will be affected this year, and then whether or not we'll be expected to take the SAT and ACT, just whether colleges will be looking for that, just because a lot of people are like, do I start studying? Do I not? Will it affect my college admissions? And then for the next slide, sorry, this one's a bit longer because we just kind of threw everything out there. In general, we talked about how most people don't want to speak up in a Zoom. As we know by being in this Zoom, when you talk, you go to the front page and everyone can see you even after you stop talking. So when we mentioned that, like, we don't want to answer the question even if we know the answer. Montgomery High School, again, the teachers have really taken this feedback in, and as I'm sure many of us know, Zoom has the option where you can put in polls. And so what a lot of the Montgomery High School teachers are doing is, if they know they're going to be asking a question during class, they'll make it a poll. And then instead of waiting for a volunteer with no one wanting to respond and calling on someone, everyone can just answer the poll anonymously, and then the teacher can review the results and say, oh, well then this is what we're going to have to go over. This is how I solved this, and that kind of thing. And apparently it's been really good. Students have been able to kind of get involved without having to be at the forefront of the Zoom call. And then a big thing we talked about when it came to subjects was math. I know I took the LCAP survey today, and I know it mentioned math, but everyone's been saying out of all of our classes, math is the one everyone's struggling with the most. Even, I mean, I want to say at least 5 of the students at the high school level, they are very good at math. They like math, and they're saying they're lost. And it has nothing to do really with the teaching. It's just that this format makes it a lot more difficult for them to learn in the way that they're used to and the way that they're comfortable with. And we kind of talked about, well, there's 2 different options. You can either get through all the curriculum that you're expected to know next year, or you could kind of narrow it down and you won't get to everything. And I want to say everyone was like, I don't need to get through everything, but at this point, I'm not understanding everything. So I wanted to make sure that was known too, that they would much rather understand less of the curriculum than get through all of it and not know what they're doing at the end of the year. And then for the next slide, this is something that leadership is pushing out for this flyer. It's an upcoming event on December 5th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Windsor Middle School Drop-Off Center. It is a food and toy donation parade. This isn't held by Windsor High School, but it's being supported by the Windsor schools. And it's going to be a really great way to kind of get in the holiday spirit and help out without having to endanger ourselves or put ourselves at risk. It's going to be really good and limited contact and totally COVID safe. And we're really excited about that. And then the last one is just the email, because I got a new one and I'm very excited about it, and I want to make sure people know how to contact me.
Thank you very much, Ava. We appreciate that. It's good to have that student insight. And as a teacher, I appreciate a lot of those comments you made. I'll take some of those to heart myself, because we don't always hear the student perspective when we're, looking at a screen of 20 or 30 or more students, and knowing the self-consciousness and knowing the awkwardness of the breakout rooms, that helps me understand things a little better. And I'm sure some of our staff that are here and watching tonight will also take that and share it with their colleagues. So we appreciate your insight there. Any other comments or quick questions for Ava tonight from the trustees? Yeah, Stephanie first, please.
All right, Ava, just wanted to thank you for your hard work. It sounds like you're really enjoying your role and you're doing a great job collecting feedback. So, congratulations on that. If there's a way that we can so you had a few really good concrete tips. If there's a way to make sure they get from this space into teacher hands or teacher email accounts somehow in the proper channel, that would be great, because I'm sure there are teachers who would appreciate just, hey, a couple tidbits from students of things that are working. And I think that's all. Thanks for all the hard work you're doing.
Yeah, Ava, thanks for taking the strong laboring oar on this. I know it took a while, excuse me, to get your advisory group up to speed. I think given where COVID and the arc that's taking, you probably need to continue to build on that. And please keep giving us those candid bits of information. I echo what Trustee Ahmad said. It says, let's bundle those, Superintendent Decker and Ms. Saxon, and figure out a way that we can push those out. I mean, when the effort goes into people sharing their thoughts, I think it's important that we pass those along to honor the effort that those students are going over and above the norm to help us out as a district. So thank you very much, Ava.
All right, so thank you again, Ava, for a nice report. We look forward to more of those in the future. And you're very active in the school, and we appreciate that from you. All right, we're going to move forward in our agenda. The next section is the consent action items. And I am going to ask Vice President Ahmad to please lead us through these items. And there's several of them tonight, so it might take a little bit to read through all of them, but I think she's ready for it. So here we go,
I'm ready.
Trustee Ahmad.
Yes, I believe there are 13 tonight, so I'll just go ahead and get started. I'll try to make it as engaging as possible. Item 5, consent action items. Item 5.1 is consideration of approval of consent action items. Item 5.2 is consideration of approval of personnel assignment order number 2021-07. Item 5.3 is consideration of approval of agreement between the Windsor Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Windsor Chapter 673. Item 5.4 is consideration of approval of disposal of surplus items. Item 5.4, consideration of approval on contract batch 12-1-2020. Item 5.6, consideration of approval of change order number 2 to American Modular Systems for the Maddie Washburn Elementary School 17 new modular classroom building increment 2 project. Item 5.7, consideration of approval of change order 1 for Axia Architects for Maddie Washburn new classroom project. Item 5.8, consideration of approval of Kalikameka Language Academy portable replacement proposal for site study. Just a second. Item 5.9, consideration of approval of change order number 1 for Bruce C. Manzel, inspection and consulting for restroom addition at Brooks and Maddie Washburn. Item 5.10, consideration of approval of change order number 1 to Ridgeview Builders Incorporated for remodeling the Windsor Middle School Makers Lab. Item 5.11, consideration of approval of Ridgeview Builders Incorporated CUPPCA contract for retrofitting existing play structure at Brooks Elementary School. Consideration of approval of 5.12, consideration of approval of Windsor Middle School covered walkways re-roofing using garlands, DBS Omnia Master Agreement. Item 5.13, consideration of approval of temporary non-member administrative classified job assignment and classified non-member salary rate. And then finally, item 14, consideration of approval of district warrants November 1st, 2020 to November 20th, 2020. I will make the first motion. Do I have a second before we open it up for discussion?
I'll second the consent calendar. I will, for noting the votes, Jen, I will recuse myself from item 5.7 because I have a family member who works for Axia Architects. But other than that, I'll second the motion.
I have a follow-up question. On section 5.4, consideration of the disposal of surplus, just so that way everybody knows, one, I want to know too, if we're interested as a public member in something that's getting disposed of, is there like a site that we can bid on those things, or are those things just, are they kind of more or less thrown away, recycled type stuff? I don't know if Lois,
Shall I go? Are you done?
Well, yeah, I'm curious what the mechanism, because I see that little greenhouse there and I'm trying to save my marriage.
It depends on the situation. We certainly would love to find homes for these things. And once they're surplus, Bonnie will work. We have a site where we can put them up for public purchase, or we just will put an ad like on our website. So we'll decide what makes sense, and I'll make sure that you know when that happens.
That'd be great. Well, I'm just curious because we have that and I forgot to ask a few times. That way, we have stuff that's in the community and everybody in our community originally paid for it in one form or another. And so that way, I didn't know what the mechanism was for people to either bid on it or how that process worked after we declare it surplus.
It depends on the value of things, and nothing in tonight's listing is of great value. So we have a lot of flexibility in how we can do it.
Thanks.
Any further questions on items 5.2 through 5.14? Okay, so we have a first motion by Trustee Ahmad, a second by Trustee Adams with his recusal of 5.7. With those things being noted, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor of approving the consent action items, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're 5-0 there. Thank you. All right, the next section of our agenda, we had a change and adjustment. So we're going to go to item 7.1 prior to coming back to the report and discussion. So this is an action item. Item 7.1 is consideration approval of the contract with Terra Verde Renewable Partners for asset management services for the district solar, photovoltaic, and battery energy storage system. CBO Standring, would you help us start this discussion, please?
Of course. Thank you so much for making the adjustment. So tonight we have Phil Villagomez with us. He's from Terra Verde. We know Terra Verde well from all the work on the solar project. And in case you weren't aware, we are just about done with the actual construction. Pretty much we have a punch list, and then Phil can probably tell us more. We'll be flipping the switches on all of these and changing how we get our energy. And so the next step becomes asset management, and that's what Phil is here to talk to us about. So thanks so much for joining us, Phil.
All right, thank you for having me. Thank you, Superintendent Decker and all board members, trustees. Very pleased to be here. And as Lois mentioned, Terra Verde is proud of our relationship with Windsor, and we're very excited to continue that relationship as well. I put together just a small slide pack that I'm gonna, it says host disabled participant sharing. Jenny, could you let me share, and I'll share a slide deck.
Hi, Brad. Can you do that for me, please? Because you're the host.
We'll be all set now.
All right. Standing by. Here it is. Okay. Can you see that? All right. Thank you. For today's agenda, as I said, this will be brief, although there is a lot of exciting information to share. I just want to give a quick introduction to kind of, as Lois mentioned, we're moving from a different stage from construction. As you know or may know, some of the solar sites, or all of them, have already reached the permission to operate stage and are now moving to the COD date, where they'll be officially, their commercial operation date will hit. And that moves us into another stage of managing the asset. So I want to let you know about some of the people that will be involved in that. I'll talk a little bit about what solar PV asset management really means, what deliverables you'll be receiving, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A. But these are the four main folks that will be working on this Windsor account as we manage your solar assets. Myself, I spent 18 years with Shell, and a lot of that was in their San Francisco New Energies office, which focused where I was working on electric vehicles and utility scale solar. But then I was recruited over to Terra Verde. I'm now very happy to be working with California school districts and water agencies as my primary clients. Hayden Solomon is our director of asset management, and she comes to us from Tesla, having a background working with working with installers and being able to work on asset management as well. So we're very proud to have her on the team. Robin Weldy is someone that's been with the group for over 5 years. He'll be the portfolio manager working on developing your quarterly and annual reports, which I'll describe in a bit. And then Sarvesh Dandekar is our asset engineer who is going to be doing daily monitoring of your systems. And I'll also go into a little bit of that here shortly. So just to give you an overview of what it means to move from one stage to the other, the amendment to the original project contract did state or stipulate that upon final completion of the project that we would enter into a new agreement, which then covers the terms and conditions for asset management services. And so it is kind of due to the development structure, it's understood that the district will kind of enter into this first initial 2-year term. But of course, we want to share with you what value that will bring to you and why it's very important. And we hope to have this continue on for many years after that, as I explained, the importance of asset management. And it's all about really optimizing the performance of your system. And just because the system's brand new doesn't mean that it doesn't need a lot of oversight and management. And I hope to share with you some of the challenges that many of the systems face initially. And you'll be surprised to hear some of the things that you may be, that we'll keep an eye out for. But the big challenges that people face really are more around outages and underperformance. And if you walk by a solar facility or solar panels, how do you really know that they're operating? I know when I first entered the industry, a panel sitting on the ground versus a panel connected to a system, they both kind of look the same to me. So I'm like, how do you actually understand when the optimum performance is maybe showing some degradation? How do you know if a string inverter's out? How do you know if something, you've flipped a breaker? There are a lot of outages and underperformance issues that can happen. So to deal with that, Terra Verde does active daily monitoring. And not only is that personally in-person monitoring, but it's every day and it's weather adjusted. And what that means is that we're looking at your system to say on any given day of the year, based on a baseline, is it performing up to its expected standard based on the weather for that day? Meaning, what is the cloud coverage? What is the irradiance? And unless you're doing
interrupt you, you got a good flow going. We're still on your cover slide. I don't know if you meant to scan through those.
Yes.
But if you wanted us to see them, we need to have that move along. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing the current slide. Let me see what's.
We're only seeing the first opening slide.
All right, let me see.
There we go.
Okay,
You mentioned all those people. Now we have a face to the name. That's good.
Okay, let me know if you is that moved on to the new slide?
Yes, you're on the solar PV asset slide.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Technical issue there. But as I was talking about solar management service, that it is about optimization and performing of systems, and then why it's so very important to manage this just like you would manage any other asset. So this slide titled Solar PV Asset Management Services covers the first two big challenges, which I mentioned, outages, underperformance, and then how to manage your PPA provider. And so in addition to that daily monitoring, we're also going to be tracking and documenting any type of issues or performance impacting events that we see. And believe it or not, we do this every day. And I can tell you that many of our clients, we have lists of things that we document and we bring to the attention of the PPA providers. And it can be everything from maybe soiling or issues with the panel to actual transformers issues, or basically even when systems go down, it needs to have an immediate response. And even though there's monitoring that the provider should be aware of this at some time, it may take days for them to respond. But what we're doing is looking at it every single day so that we can be proactive. And we'll also keep an eye on warranty claims and also do tracking of your performance guarantee. A performance guarantee is good, and it's absolutely something that Terra Verde always asks for and requires from their project development team coworkers. But unfortunately, they have their challenges as well. A guarantee needs to be managed, it needs to be monitored, and you have to look at the age of true up to the performance guarantee. And what Terra Verde does is we'll track it and give you updates on where you're at with your guarantee. Basically, every year on your financial report, you'll see what's, if anything, is owed to you and what those totals are. So it's a very valuable tool. I have dealt with a lot of clients that when I ask them questions about their system, if they haven't been working with an asset manager, sometimes there's a big lack of understanding or information that's missing around their facility operation plans. They don't know where the original drawings are. They don't know about the details of the system, or maybe even the inventory of some of the materials they'll need to be looking at for replacement. So Terra Verde is also going to be operating a facilities operations plan for your systems, and will be a one-stop shop for information when you have questions or issues. And a lot of times it's a lot easier to get that from a third-party provider like us versus waiting in line with your PPA provider. Now, what you'll be getting as part of the asset management system are quarterly performance monitoring reports and annual energy savings assessment reports. And this is very key. It's going to give you a transparent and clear understanding of how your system's performing, both from an operational point of view and from a financial kind of savings point of view. We've developed a kind of a, I guess you could call it our in-house kind of rate engine tool. And it will show you exactly what your utility invoices would have been without the solar versus where they're at. And it'll give you a concrete understanding of what your avoided cost of electricity is, and it helps put a clear understanding of what your savings are from solar. It also helps track and measure, against those original savings projections that you may have seen very early in the project. Quarterly reports are very good because you're going to see, as I said, it'll be compared again, it'll be weather adjusted, and it'll be specific to your site. So it's not like we're just going out and saying the average system does this, but we'll be showing you your exact systems and how they're performing on a daily basis. The annual reports come out once a year, and it is on a fiscal year basis. But your quarterly reports, once a quarter ends, there's usually a month or two delay when we're gathering all the data and then putting that together for very concise, clear, and transparent reports around the performance of those systems.
Bill, I've got a question while we're talking about that. Will the report be a consolidated report, or will it be site by site?
It's going to be site by site. It'll be one report, but we'll break out each location. There will be some overall, like just to say, hey, how is your system doing overall? Like I'm showing here. Can you see that on the screen with the above the graph?
Yeah, it's small, but we can see it there. Yeah.
So what that is that you'll see a system-wide or district-wide totals to say what your total avoided cost was and what your actual costs were, which will break down based on Windsor specifically, what your projections are versus actual. And then there'll be backup sheets for each location.
With that, I don't mind that we're going to get 2 or 3 months later, just kind of a historical snapshot of how we're performing. Mm-hmm. But I know you guys are monitoring it day by day. Are we going to get some sort of an alert or some sort of all of a sudden we're not producing?
Absolutely. So usually we'll be the first line of kind of defense on that. And then we notify not only our contacts within the district, but then of course we'll have direct lines of communication to the PPA providers. So folks can be as involved as they want for this information. Some of it can be minor and little things that you don't need to be kind of made aware of that aren't having any performance impact. Obviously, those aren't as high priority, but anything that's impacting a system as soon as as we're aware of it, and if we see that there's any part of the system that's not operational, you will be made aware, of course.
So I'm thinking more of the timing. If we get the 5,000, 10,000 view historical report, that's fine. But I want to make sure that we're getting, if something goes out on a Monday, I want to make sure that we know about it on Monday.
Yeah.
Not, we don't learn about it on a Monday 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Is that, I want to make sure that that's what we're getting. Is that what we're getting?
That's what you're getting from us. You'll be made aware. Now, what the challenges that we've seen in some of the, I guess you could say the PPA providers sometimes need motivation to act. And so when we make them aware of an issue, they will document the exact day we noticed it and the day we called them. And you'll get a copy of that in the quarterly report. But we will also follow up with them to say, you were notified about this performance or maintenance issue on this day. What's the status? Or why is it taking this many days to solve? So you'll get a full transparent issue of that. And as I said, these providers sometimes have multiple sites, but we'll be in your corner bringing up these issues in front of them so that they get resolved very quickly.
Okay.
So every year you'll be able to see your net savings of what the what solar is bringing to your bottom line. There are many things that impact this. You'll be comparing it against your original projections, but as you may know, with in the PG&E territory, with time of use, rate shift period shifts, we'll make notes of anything that's really impacting you all. We'll make you aware of it. We'll talk about how to avoid challenges related with those things, and sometimes we'll even do special kind of looking into challenges that pop up, much like whether it's wildfire ash on panels or, reduced demand due to COVID kind of restrictions and stay at home. It's we're looking out for these challenges that are faced by our clients. So we'll, you'll have a energy advisor and consultant at the ready when you have issues or questions around your system. And the systems, as I mentioned, when I talked about the team, you'll notice that this is a different team that worked on your project development. So it is a new set of faces and a new team that's going to be supporting you here. But the good news is we work very closely with the project development team. So if there's any issue, we'll have direct access to Jen and her team. All of them that have worked with you all up to this point, we'll be continuing to stay in communication with them. And so asset management, I think, is something that's very important. I look forward to working with you all to, see this transition as we move into the commercial operation dates and then kind of start to see the systems perform in the new year. So that's kind of all I had for you today, and I'm happy to take any other questions if you have them.
Just a couple really quick things on my side of things. I've had somebody comment in to me privately. I know that we have a contract that explains a lot of these things, and I don't know if our district leadership has shared that contract on the website or not, but one thing that is curious is what is the cost for service, and is that going to be published? And then what about cleaning? Who's responsible and how often does the cleaning happen?
Yeah. Lois, is it okay if I share the
Cost is published.
Okay. Yeah, and so that was included.
Yeah, the contract is attached to the agenda. The price. If the question, Eric, is about the price of the asset management, then it's attached to this agenda.
Right.
It's
24,000.
4,000.
24,000 plus a 3.5% escalator for the following.
Right.
Right. Well, go ahead.
And then the washings will be provided, are part of your PPA provider assessment that comes as part of what they're responsible for. But we will be keep monitoring and measuring, or we can measure performance. And if there's an event, whether it's wildfire ash, or in some communities we'll look at post kind of agricultural impacts, we're able to look at certain dates and say your production is come down by 10 to 15% due to this probably event. And then we'll talk to them about trying to get them to do more washings. This year, we did see some providers try and pull back on the number of panel washings they did. And we were successfully able to lobby on behalf of some of our clients to make sure that no washings were missed this year.
So Phil, a couple of things on the washings. We're not prevented from washing them ourselves, are we?
You are, because you don't own them, any type of touching or impacting them, you don't want to do that because you could damage them. And there's pretty strict restrictions on, they don't want you out there washing them. A power washer can actually do damage to a panel if not done absolutely properly.
Yeah, what if it rains with one of our hoses? That's not doing anything to them, right?
Well, normal rainfall obviously is kind of nature's way of cleaning a panel. So I suppose if someone were washing a car and there was some spray that got on it, you know, it's kind of, there are certain things that are going to fall on panels all the time, and including bird droppings and whatnot. So I'll just leave
I must have missed it because I read that contract pretty well. I don't remember seeing anything that says that we can't wash them, but we can talk about that later. On this thing, the price on the cost of it, I'm kind of, not to be, I don't want to be sticky, but I mean, I'm thinking you guys you're managing this thing. I'm not sure where the 3%, why we have an escalator of 3% in there, why it's not just maybe CPI capped, maybe a small thing. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things. I also see where it says annual fee is to be invoiced quarterly, invoice each quarter annually, followed by each end with an applicable quarter. And then it talks about how you guys can extend after the completion of the initial agreement. I read through the agreement. I didn't see, I skimmed through it. I didn't see where there's an extension provision.
That is on the original. If you look at amendment number 1 to the project contract, the amendment number 1 will stipulate the quarterly billing and the term and the opportunity for renewal. So you'll find that in amendment number 1 to your project contract.
Okay. Is that something that we did, Lois, a while ago?
Okay. Yeah, that it was part of the when they first started working for us when we were in construction, well, helping us create the contract. So what was that, 2 years ago, Phil, I think?
Yeah, it's been some time, and if you need a copy of that, I could get that to you, but I'm sure that, Lois, I'm sure y'all have the executed copy of that amendment.
Yes, we do.
We do. I was just reading what was in our packet tonight, looking at that contract, and I didn't see it in there. That's why.
Yeah, when I drafted the contract, I made sure to conform with whatever was stipulated in the amendment. So in fact, Lois, after we spoke, I went back and I met with David Burdick and we reviewed the contract just to make sure we were in compliance there and understanding what was the intent of the original agreement.
So Phil, if we have a new contract here that's really pointing to our old contract, why do we have a new contract?
Well, the new contract has a scope of work specifically for asset management. So we want to keep it separate so that you understand that how we're managing your asset is really separate from how we develop the project. But when they created the structure of the project development agreement was intended to kind of keep Terra Verde around for a couple of years to help you get this system up and running. And that's how they kind of develop it now. I know this is standard procedures for us where we will go into when we do this kind of agreement, we'll look at it and say, hey, this is how we're developing the project. And this is what we kind of expect to see in the first 2 years of operation.
Okie dokie.
I had a quick question, Phil. Are you there?
Yeah.
So it's a 2-year agreement where the district hires your company to service the photovoltaic at the 3 schools. Would it be, in your experience, does the district take that over at some point? Or does the district simply hire out this work to companies like yours? Because after 2 years, what happens then? Do we have to have someone internally manage the project, or is this something that companies provide to districts?
We've seen that larger districts that have dedicated, like say, energy managers or energy staffs, or in some cases, some districts have entire energy departments that have a lot of staff. They are fully capable of running their own asset management programs, given their budgets and their, basically what they have access to. But given what we're doing and providing that one-on-one daily monitoring, the reporting structure, it really comes down to a cost-benefit analysis, because we feel that, for districts that we work with, especially like one like Windsor, you can benefit by outsourcing it to us and not having to have dedicated staff solely dedicated to your solar PV or renewable energy management. But I do think that, there are certain things that you'll learn as we go along, and we're more than happy to educate folks on what we're doing, especially when it comes to report analysis. But in reality, these systems, it's like your power plant now, and you wouldn't just leave a power plant, with no management. So we do recommend that people consider and manage and deliver, they'll want to manage these systems with the help of energy experts.
So it is possible to train a novice person that works in the district to shadow for 2 years, and they may or may not be able to pick up this information, but it's specialized information, is from what I hear your report saying.
Sure.
Yeah. George, are you looking for a job?
Yeah, I might come back. I don't, not that I'm retired, but I'm really not retired.
Right. Phil, like on a lot of the residential systems, they have software that the homeowner is able to they can do exactly what you're talking about, dial in, see how their inverter is, how much power they're creating, the time, and all that other stuff. Is there a commercial program that school districts can lease, buy, rent, what have you, that somebody internally, one of their duties could be to manage and watch that?
Well, your system is going to have software monitoring, but that's just one part of it. For a commercial size system like this, there's more than just saying, okay, if the software tells you your production or you're generating 10% less today, then you're going to have to find out why. And that's where our systems are able to go in there and help identify issues, look at baseline analysis, do comparative analysis, and run remote checks. Software is absolutely necessary. You're absolutely right that that's part of the program, but it doesn't really take you fully to where you need to be. And that's about analyzing what the system tells you and then acting on that information.
But I don't know that we need to do that. Don't we basically just need to be able to identify that we're not producing what we should be, and then we get a hold of our PPA partner and say, hey, our system's not producing. You guys come and either wash it or figure out why it's not working. Well, you would like to think that that's how it works, but based on what we've seen, and we can show you time and time again where they have limited staffs to respond to every issue. And sometimes they won't catch it as quickly as we will once we're doing our daily monitoring. And we'll also give them the information, or as much information as we can, to identify, as you said, to be as specific as possible. And then they're also, all of the program will also include more of the kind of the financial transparency that an operational person just won't get into. We're going to look at it from a wide variety of ranges, both from a physical, operational, and then also all the financial analysis that we're going to be doing and comparing it against utility rate structures and understanding like how your systems are performing. I get that part. I hope this is not sounding rude. Our system's supposed to produce at a certain rate. If we have a program that says that already is coming with it, that says, hey, we're producing X. If we're not producing, all our obligation is to let the PPA folks know, hey, it's not producing. They then need to come and figure out why it's not producing. If it doesn't, because they have to generate in a certain parameter. So our responsibility is only to let them know. We're basically hiring you to take care of our responsibility of making sure that it's being monitored.
Right. Well, you
To
can
figure
look
out
at
what,
it.
to figure out why it's not being monitored or why it's not producing, I don't think that that's our or your issue. But I'm just looking at, $22,000, $24,000 a year. That's 2 brand new wrestling mats every year. That's how I kind of equate it. That's a whole bunch of instruments. That's a whole bunch of everything. And that money is coming out of the general fund or out of our electrical savings. It's not coming out of the state funds that we got to help, with this initially. So this is coming out of our general fund, and, things are tight here. So I'm trying to figure out, do you have added value? Absolutely. Is it a value we can afford? That's the thing I'm weighing with right now. So, and I'm trying to figure out, do we really do, I think contractually we have you for 2 years, right? Because of our original agreement from way back a couple years ago.
Yeah. Well,
okay, so there's no reason to really chat about it right now, but
no, but we want to show you that we're going to be adding value from day one. And my response would be kind of like, can you afford not to have us? Because you have an investment in the savings that you're projecting. And what we'll do is be in your corner to project those savings. And unfortunately, as good as PPA providers are on installing, we want to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that service continues throughout the life of your systems. And that starts on day one. So I would say that, we have example after example of how we've been able to basically optimize systems and protect savings that were originally projected. So as I say, it's a big investment because while you're not the owners currently, you're the benefactors there. You benefit from that system, and you want to protect the savings that you're getting from your utility bill. And you don't want systems that are performing at less than optimum rates. And that's what we'll be paid to do, is to monitor, to protect, optimize, and to make sure that you're getting those savings.
Any further comments from trustees for Phil? Or if not, I'd be willing to take a motion to
I have a
approve this
comment.
contract.
So Phil, thank you for the presentation. I think it was really helpful. I kind of want to echo a little bit what Trustee Carnation is saying, but kind of from a different perspective. I think we have, members of the public watching, they see the fee. And I think what we want to be able to do is say, this is the savings that we're realizing because we're paying this fee, because we're engaging Terra Verde to work with us. We just want to be able to sell it, because it's something that we're buying that we think is going to add value. Obviously, our district believes that because you're here. But I think it would be helpful to have just some really plain language, like this is the savings, this is what, these are numbers of, this is what it could be, this is what it could not be. I don't see it super clearly. And I think I'm concerned that members of the public won't see it super clearly, and it kind of feels fuzzy. So if you could help with that, I think that would be helpful for me, at least.
Yeah, and Lois, I don't know if you've shared previously the original projections, but what we'll do, in the reports that we give you all, we'll be showing the actual projection, and then we'll be showing the actual, impacts, and then your savings will, you'll get those savings quarterly reports. But I could also share with you, examples of are proactive in how we've been able to step in and assist with energy management in school districts to actually save them money. Yes, they're paying a asset management fee, but at the end of the day, I think it's money well spent. And I definitely, we're working with school districts in this COVID era, and we know that everyone's challenged with having budget constraints, and unfortunately, it's a challenge for everyone. So we would like to be, we want to show you the value that we're bringing, and I'll work to give you all whatever reports are necessary to do that as we move forward.
Trustee Heights, President Heights, would it be prudent for us to table this and bring it back December 15th so that we can provide some examples, or Phil can, or we may as a district better explain why this is necessary?
I would only preface that with saying that we already have a contract that says that this is required of us. So I don't know that we're approving something new right now. It's approving what had been talked about a year and a half ago or so. And we just have to make sure that they are the ones that are being hired to do that job. But I'll open it to others that might have a similar comment or a question. If you want to bring it back later, we can, but I think at this time, we already have this in the contract stage, so.
And this is Bill. I would echo what Trustee Ahmad said. I'm not clear what the net gain is here. And I think if we could come back in 2 weeks to be clear on that point, I'm not saying it's not valuable. I could not explain this in 3 sentences to a member of the public who saw me at the grocery store. I get what Phil has told us. We just need to clarify it and get it relatively straightforward. You know, if we have a contract that I'm still not clear, is that it's not happening yet because we haven't turned it on. That's a piece of still, after half an hour, not clear where we are. So I would concur, Superintendent Decker, perhaps we come back in 2 weeks with some clarifying information.
Lois
is talking, but he's muted.
Tact.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is there an issue with that tact to bring it back in 2 weeks? It's prior to January 1st, which seemed like that was the date.
I think the timing's okay, Phil. Does that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back, and I can even ask one of my colleagues to join us, because we want to make sure that you understand the full range and scope. I kept the presentation brief tonight to kind of, I didn't want to overload you all this evening with too much information, but happy to bring more examples and to show you kind of the day-to-day activities and the benefits you'll be getting. So would love to come back and continue the discussion and maybe show you what you need to hear, because I think this is something we do for, as we said, we only focus on school districts and water agencies, and we're continuing to add value. And so we need to show you exactly how we're going to do that for Windsor.
If I could just suggest then, if it does come back, I'd rather not wait until we have our next board meeting to get all this presented to us. If you could shoot the information to Lois, she could give it to us, because that way we can do a little of that work between now and then. I apologize. I didn't plan on this taking this long and how these questions have kind of just rolled out. But if we've already agreed to this, maybe we already have. So it might be a moot issue, but if you can forward to the board that original agreement from 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was, so then that way we can look, and if you want to fill, just point out, say, hey, subsection X is where we would continue on. I want to understand what our board has already agreed to and what our obligations are there. And then, so that way if we've already agreed to it, we have to do that. But this added value stuff you talk about, that's the stuff where I think Trustee Ahmad said much, much better than I did. Can we afford that added value? I know you're saying that we can't afford not to. Let's quantify it and find out what that is. So that way we're not in that fuzzy added value area. We're in the real numbers, because if I remember right, we were kind of eating our peas and corn the first couple of years, and we weren't really making any money. We were kind of breaking even. It was subsequent years where we start to have a savings. So if our savings is down the road, then what we're really doing is we're actually sucking another $24,000 to $50,000 out of our general fund for the next 2 years to do something. And, that's something that maybe we're obligated to do that. I don't know. So if we could put it off, I appreciate Superintendent Decker's suggestion to put it off for a couple of weeks. Let us get our information. Then that way, in the meantime, we can do a little more research and maybe get those questions to you in between time.
Yeah, my goal was to kind of explain, the benefits, what you'll be getting, but I'd be happy to add more detail to that and show you some of the basically activities that will occur under the system and the management program.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we will look forward to a further discussion. We'll table item 7.1 at this time and bring that back after receiving information in between, and make a decision later on that item. So thank you, Phil, for being here, and we will look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so we're back in our regular order of operations here. We'll go back to item 6.1, the report and discussion section. Item 6.1 is an update on construction projects in the Windsor Unified School District. presented by Construction Manager Eric Van Pelt and Brian Cameron. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. Floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, board, Superintendent Decker, and members of the community. So I will be giving you a brief update on all the projects that are underway, a little bit of a deeper update on the Cali portable replacement project tonight. So I'm going to start with the elementary school cameras. All cameras, with the exception of 3 at Cali, have been installed. The contractor is currently working on patching and programming the cameras into the network. Once all the cameras are online, we'll have a final punch walk and commissioning to make sure the system is functioning as designed. Intercom upgrades. At the last executive bond meeting, we had a pretty lengthy discussion about this, about how to get this work done. We landed upon the fact that we've got some teachers teaching in classrooms, and that we've got this project is going to require a worker or 2 to be in every classroom in the district. We decided that this project was best to complete over the summer. So the drawings are ready, the project's ready. We're going to bid it a little bit early in the late winter, start of spring here, and then the work will be completed over the summer. The Windsor quad improvements, you guys can see behind me. We've got the quad is looking great. The fences came down. There are a few minor punch list items that we're working on now with regards to the asphalt and some of the flat work that the contractor will be taking care of in the next couple weeks. And then we will be all done bringing you a notice of completion to sign. But it turned out beautiful. It's a really beautiful space. I think it really did a lot for the campus. The Brooks new play structure. The play structure has been installed and complete. The next step, which you all approved the contract tonight for Ridgeview, that is correcting a few ADA and safety items on the existing play structure to bring it up to code. That was a requirement by DSA, and we'll get that wrapped up within by the end of the year with the approval of the contract tonight. The Windsor Middle School Makers Lab, the steel columns for the cord reels and lights have been erected. The steel fabricator is scheduling the installation of the beams on the lighting structure. Once the lights and cord reels are installed, the concrete floor gets polished. We've got we've been working really close, Brian has, with the site and the teachers on this. They're really excited to use the space, and they love seeing it come together. So we expect that space to be all ready in January. The covered walkways, we had the contract approved tonight. So again, this will be a project that we will be moving forward with, re-roofing the covered walkways. The Cali computer lab remodel. The contractor is installing the casework for the new science lab. Just to remind everybody, this is the Cali computer lab that we are converting into a science lab. And finalizing the plumbing fixtures in that casework next week, 12/11. Once that work is complete, the space will be completed and there'll be a punchless walk. Project is right on budget, and the science teachers are getting really excited to see their space as well. District-wide repainting. At the last board meeting where we discussed facilities in depth, we talked about moving forward with painting the different sites. We got a preliminary proposal from Axia Architects to assist us with the painting and the selection of colors and the putting together of renderings and 3D views. We're reviewing that with district staff. We just got it this week. We're reviewing it next week, and then likely we'll bring some form of that to you in the next board meeting. I am going to get on to the 2 larger projects now, which are the Matty Washburn portables replacement and the Cali Calmeca portable replacement. The project team has submitted the Matty Washburn modulars to DSA. So those are in DSA. We got the first round of comments, and just to remind everybody, since these are modulars, this is part of the process is to go to DSA and get them approved. But since these are modulars, they're do what's called a pre-check. So there's an over-the-counter review where you go, you make an appointment, you go over the counter, they give you a list of comments, you fix them, you bring them back a week later, and they're approved. So we're expecting DSA approval by the end of next week. And those buildings will begin to be built off sites, and we will get going on the off-site construction portion. The on-site construction portion, we had the final review meeting with Principal Stern and the Matty site. Julie was was happy, and we're proceeding with the drawings that we've got. That is, so everybody remembers, it's the landscaping areas around the buildings, and it's the site work and the hardscape. So that project is in two different packages. One is the actual buildings, one is the hardscape and the landscape around it. Now, on to the most exciting one of the night, and that's Cali. We took the feedback from the board at the last meeting where we did the deep dive into the facilities, and to come up with a different two-story design for Matty that did include the proper number of classrooms. So I'm going to share my screen here, and you can see it now. And we had meetings with Roop from ATI Architects, district staff, Lois, and Cali site with Sharon. And we came up with the new L-shaped two-story building design. This design, like we talked about at the last facilities board meeting, the desire was to go to a two-story design to limit the building footprint and create as much space as possible. With that said, we came up with this revised design that creates a courtyard. We also added into that courtyard a play structure and a lunch shelter. That was the desire of the site to get that into that area. And it comes out with a 14 classroom, two-story building, 24,000 gross square feet. Just so everybody knows where we're talking about, just to give some perspective. Front of the campus here, this is the side road that drives around behind the campus. So we wanted to bring this back and show it to the board and just make sure we're not actually asking for direction. This was a discussion item just to make sure that we get some input and maybe a nudge in the proper direction, that this is something that the board wanted to look at, was going to this two-story design, and that they're happy with this footprint layout. We did do a updated cost estimate on this, and this will, with what we did here was we added the 2 additional classrooms to get to the 14 classrooms from the last presentation. And we added the lunch shelter and the play structure. And as we've talked about several times, we went a little bit vertical. So a little bit added square feet, a little bit more work in the courtyard anticipated, and squeezing in the lunch shelter and the play structure. And that added about 1.3 million to the price tag. But this has turned into a really nice design that's really going to open up the areas around campus. We also designed the bathrooms, and it's showing them staying here, but this is one of the things we talked about, potentially being able to get rid of the portable bathrooms with this added with the added larger bathrooms here. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board to see if they have any questions, comments, or anything.
So Eric, you mentioned the added cost. How is the budget compared to what we had talked about originally with the added classrooms and the courtyard space?
Yeah, we're about the added classrooms and the courtyard space added about 1.3 million.
So a total project cost of approximately.
I got it right here. I'm gonna slide this over. I apologize. but the updated total project cost. Oh, I'm sorry, my screen's a little wonky from Sharon. 1 second here. I apologize. I don't know. I don't know where my Excel window went. Hold on.
Here for a second, Eric.
I know I saw it for a quick second too, but then it disappeared. There we go. Okay.
You're not,
So
it's not, Eric, it's not
Oh.
showing.
we're not showing up here. I'm sorry.
I'll add one thing that came out of the discussions is as we moved away from the pre-approved buildings, we moved into an area where we can look at having modulars. Correct, Eric and Brian?
Yes,
And
exactly.
That will help the
And-
budget tremendously.
Well, that will help too. And I apologize. I am having some sort of major malfunction here and not able to share what I'm seeing.
That's okay. I was just wanting to make sure that the public was aware of what the cost may be. I know
Yeah.
originally we talked about 10 classrooms and now we've grown to 14. And so that's if it's only costing 1 million more than what we anticipated for 10 or 12 classrooms, that's a bonus as well. So
Yeah, we were in the 13 millions the last time we had talked, and now this gets us right into the mid 14 millions.
any other comments or questions from the board? Look forward to the next step.
I think I see Rich talking, but I think he was on mute.
I think Bill was raising his hand. I have to reward good manners.
Because you just had a birthday, Richard. I see that Principal Ferrer's on. I understand this is just for discussion. One of the points that I'd like to get in context with the two-story construction, Eric, kind of what the time phase is to get this done. You know, if we get to more fruition and get a little more information next spring, and then particularly for the construction footprint, and that eliminates X number of portables. As I'm trying to think how many were there, half a dozen or more. What would the plan be, Sharon, about where we might relocate classrooms or phase this? How do you see that working? I understand we're not at that level of Gantt chart diagram. I'm just curious how that's displacing a significant part of your classroom space to get, of course, something that's better 18 months later. But I'd be curious, Eric and Sharon, if you could address that sort of general issue.
Ironically, that's the one thing we did not talk about. We tabled that discussion because we wanted the board to see the option first, because depending on the option that we choose or we get approved will lend to the creativity of how we house the students that are displaced.
Now we did put just to piggyback on what Sharon did. We did not talk about it specifically, but Brian and I in the estimate included some money for some temporary housing. Okay. So there is a few $100,000 set aside for temporary housing.
Okay. Well, in concept, I like very much getting one unified two-story structure as opposed to when we had 10 and 2 or 3 more sitting around. I like adding that sort of courtyard area with a play structure and a shelter. So in concept, I like this very much more, understanding that it's going to be 18 months, 2 years of disruption, depending on where we start. So thank you very much, Eric. Good presentation.
Anyone else that wanted to comment?
Yeah. I just want to, I agree with Trustee Adams. I like the general concept. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but because we got so many projects going on, but by going to what you've just shown us, I thought that freed us up to be able to build that. And it might be a longer process, but it wasn't as disruptive, I thought, to the kids and moving them around. So that way, when that's done, then they could all move into there and then the other portables went away. Isn't that kind of what part of the benefit of that was as well?
We tried to figure out some sort of phasing way to do it, but I don't see, Rich, I don't see an option just with how tight the corridors are over there, getting everything we need and leaving some buildings in place. I just don't see it happening. It's going to be, and if we did, you're going to be driving excavators and backhoes within a foot of buildings, and it will be a nightmare. So that's why we decided to go with the temporary housing, put a little bit of money in there to figure it out down the road, a temporary solution. So we looked at it hard, and we tried to come up with something, but Brian and I kind of could not come up with a solution to leave some buildings in place.
Gotcha. I don't know how many of you guys know anything about jewelry and diamonds, but sometimes to cut them and get them to look really, really sharp and get all their facets so they can shine really bright, sometimes you got to scuff them up and they look kind of dirty and ugly and black during that process. But when it's done, we all know how brilliant they look. And I kind of like what you've come up with there. And I think that, Cali is one of our gyms, and I think that what you've come up with, I think, looks pretty sharp, and I think functionally it'll be really well. And I think most parents and most kids and most staff, I would hope, would be like, hey, we can endure a little bit of this pain for this amazing diamond that we're going to have down the road. So I kind of like the direction we're heading with that. So
yeah, and this is credit where credit's due. Sharon and Brian and Lois really worked hard on coming up with this too. They've got a ton of sweat in this game too. So they need to get some credit.
All right, Stephanie, you next.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, Eric and Brian. It's always good to see you. I always enjoy your presentations and updates. I'm excited about all of the projects that we have going on. It's so exciting. And I think that I just wanted to make the comment that I think parents will be so excited to have their kids back in school that a little construction staging is going to be fine. That's my sense. I mean, never underestimate any parent's ability to complain, but speaking for myself, but I think that we're all going to be pretty happy to have to deal with a little bit of inconvenience, especially knowing what the outcome will be a couple years down the road. So very exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd echo that. And you think back a few years ago to when we built the Brooks building, and those students were only on campus for 2 years. And so they had to suffer through it and then not get the benefits of it. But the Cali classrooms, since it's a K-8, almost everybody will have a chance to be in one of those rooms at some point. So this is a benefit for all of them. So wonderful things happening. And thanks to the voters in 2016 that passed the bond measure that is allowing us to do all these wonderful projects. Without the community support, we wouldn't have such great facilities coming our way, and trying to draw more students and keep all of our staff and children in a wonderful place and safe, and looking forward to them all coming back to school hopefully next year. Thank you, Eric and Brian. We appreciate you hanging in there tonight, and we'll look forward to another report in a couple weeks.
Thank you all.
All right, we'll move on to item 6.2, which is a discussion on board goals. Superintendent Decker has worked with us in his new tenure and has some items he'd like to share about things we're looking forward to in the future.
Sure, and thank you, President Heights. So the goals have been attached to the agenda. So I don't know if you'd like me to share my screen just so you can see them or not, or if we just like to discuss kind of the content. What would you prefer, guys?
My preference is that we not share them so that we can see each other.
Okay.
Yeah, just share some bullet points and some main ideas.
Sure, that's what I thought too.
Closer at that, they can open the document later.
Yep. So I wanted to touch these because today I wanted to go through them. They're pretty dense, and we haven't had a chance to get together since our study session. And I really wanted to give an opportunity for everybody to discuss kind of what we came up with. So there are 5 goals. The overarching topics that were created are financial stability, student engagement, college and career readiness, human capital, and community. And this is based on the study session that we had as a board, and we identified these, and I kind of named what we had identified because they lack some names. Underneath the goals, I kind of gave a descriptor of what it means or what the goal is. So for instance, for financial stability, the district will meet the funding needs of the district while maintaining financial stability. Okay, pretty straightforward. Then after that, we had our indicators of success and tried to build these based on the discussion that we had and really hit the key points that were brought up by the board. So I think it would be a little bit too much if I'm going through every bit of this. I'd prefer to actually open it up to the board to let me know what they, I don't know if they have concerns about, just what you'd like to discuss, what you want to feel strongly about keeping, any changes you'd like to make to kind of the outline, because obviously this is a new way of doing board goals for Windsor. So basically any discussion. Really, this is feedback for me and my cabinet so that we can modify these as an action item for the next meeting if needed.
The one thing I would ask is, in the past, we've often tied the board goals and the LCAP goals very closely connected. Maybe you could make a little point of discussion about how you would appreciate doing that with your leadership style, or how you think we could benefit from having that connection still happen.
Yeah, we actually had a lot of discussion. Ms. Saxon and myself, we discussed LCAP goals quite a bit. They are a part of the document, so I didn't go through that, but you have 3 columns. You have the goal, the indicators of success, and then the associated LCAP goal that are tied to each indicator of success. And so we want that to, obviously, board goals drive the LCAP and vice versa. And we want to be aligned. So it's there, President Heights.
Yes, I just want to make sure everybody in the meeting was aware that we had that discussion and want to make sure they're closely connected, because that's where our funding comes from.
Yes, sir.
Eric?
Trustee.
I had one, and maybe Trustee Ahmad, while I'm asking Superintendent Decker, you could pull up a picture of Decker and the Decker girls at the tree yesterday, which is when I asked him, when we were decorating the district's Christmas tree and the Charlie Brown tree. I had a point, and I told Jeremy I was going to raise it. It's just the college and career readiness, I would suggest, and there was a different word that Trustee Ahmad, or some concept, because college and career readiness, as I recall, is a dashboard metric indicator right now. I mean, that's a phrase that means something. And to me, it almost is more appropriate as an indicator of success for the broader, readiness for life post-graduation, or whatever we might call it. So I don't have a replacement for that title of the goal, but I'd suggest we consider something that's a little more broader and actually take college and career readiness and list it as one of the indicators. Because I think, Stephanie, when you had raised that sort of as a concept and we were kicking it around, and again, I even looked at my notes and I couldn't find, but I thought it was an elegant phrasing of sort of getting students and good citizens ready for life, right? And some of these are incremental academic and progress indicators. To me, college and career readiness is sort of the launching indicator, but I had the sense that our goal, sort of more broadly and generally, might be phrased as something else. And I don't necessarily know that we need to hammer that out tonight, but that just was the only thought that I had that I mentioned to Jeremy yesterday.
Yeah, thanks for raising that. I don't actually remember the phrase that I used I remember the concept, but I don't remember the phrase that sounded elegant. I think it was something like preparing our students to be adults and engaged in the world, or something like that. I think you actually said it more elegantly than me today. But yeah, if we could find a way to capture that.
Yeah, it's funny you guys should bring that one up. I had a difficult time with this one. It's so rich. There's so much that goes into this this goal. And so I know that our discussion was really about, we want to do well by our students from kindergarten through 12th grade, but we also want to make sure that we've tracked them and that they're actually successful after high school. So to be perfectly transparent, I had an indicator of success that I was trying to pull off that would somehow track whether we were successful. Did they go into a certain career? And, Lisa and I were discussing it, and it was really a hard one. It was a hard one to hammer down. So I backed away from it. And then I just focused on, can we prepare students for college and career? But so And if to your point, Trustee Adams, I do have the last indicator of success is continue to improve the percentage of students that qualify prepared for college and career. So you're right, it is a little redundant. I recognize that. And I think that, I can pull my brain trust together and see if we can come up with just a better way of saying it. I know what we're trying to pull off. And maybe this was the lazy way out for me. So I'll look at another term.
Well, and just one other thought on that, and I'm okay having college and career readiness be part of the indicator. I mean, because that has a defined meaning and we get color coded on it. I would also think about that post graduation, as the indicator of success is what do our 25-year-olds tell us about how we did, right? Sometimes people peak at 16, sometimes they peak at 26. But I like from the first indicator you have of, we're entering kindergarten and we're monitoring through the spectrum that we have them from about 3 to 18. And then afterwards having one of our candid indicators, because we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Part of it we get right now, I think, from Naviance. As I recall, there was something back in the day, we invested a little bit more in their surveys if they're connected with an educational institution. But I like the spectrum of, like 3 to 30, we're tracking our families all the way through and our students. But anyway, I think
to your point, yeah, that's okay. To your point, we do have Naviance. We talked about it. The trick with Naviance is it really tracks students who graduated from college well. It doesn't necessarily track well if we place somebody in certain industry, and that's where it was hard to design something around it. But I'll take a look. We may not be able to pull it off, Bill, but I promise you that we'll give it some more thought to see if we can.
I like what we're doing and the direction we're heading. Now we have our goal. We have it all on one sheet. This makes it more manageable. It also makes it more realistic. When you have 5, 6, 7 pages of goals, you end up getting nothing done. So this is something where we can focus more. It's funny we're having this. We just had this Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm just speaking now as a parent. One of the things that I would like to see our kids coming out of the high school with is maybe a 2-week course or a 2-week something or whatever. We may already have it, and I'm gonna get in trouble. But my youngest daughter, she's like telling me, "Hey, Dad, I need help on budgeting," and because she's now her first year in college, and she's having trouble budgeting. So when my youngest son came home, also he's graduating in accounting this semester. So I had him and Cali do a little chat on, he's helping her with budgets. And I'm thinking that maybe some of the seniors leaving our high school, whether it's career or college, might need a little bit of a tune-up on, this is a checking account, here's your budget. When your parents send you this much money this month for college, this is all you have. That's why Top Ramen was invented. So anyhow, it might just be something we might want to throw in our curriculum that if it's not there already, that might help on the career and college readiness part of the readiness part. So I just wanted to bring that up while I was fresh on my mind. So
noted. Okay.
Thank you. But I like the direction we're heading with keeping it kind of simple, more pointed. So that way we can accomplish more, and we can also identify where we're winning and losing and make adjustments.
Thank you.
And as we've talked about before, it's somewhat of a fluid document. It can ebb and flow and change a little bit as we have different things happening in our district and our budget changes and things like that. So we aren't completely locked into it, but it's a good way to check indicators and to follow our progress and to set goals with you and with ourselves as well as our sites. So
sure.
Any further questions or discussions about the document? Again, it's available on the website or the agenda here, and I'm sure we can share that on the website as well so that public can see that and view it since we didn't share it tonight on screen. Yes,
only quickly, just to say that I think it looks really good. I didn't comment on how I thought it looked. I think it looks elegant. It's straightforward. It's more streamlined. So no major comments, and maybe that college and career readiness. I don't know if we could tie in the word citizenship with that, but I think that is kind of what, or some, maybe what we're going for is that we're creating well-rounded citizens. I can't remember if that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
But another thought.
I can tell you the descriptor for that goal is the district will provide a well-articulated learning experience for students in order to prepare them for life after high school graduation. So that was the descriptor, but I'll come back with something. We'll discuss it and see if we can't put my cabinet on it. They're smarter than I am, so we'll see if we can't come up with something.
Ava, look at this and give Superintendent Decker and Ms. Saxon your 2 cents from the students too, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
All right, so unless there's further discussion, I think we're ready to move on. We can review this again at a later date. We are now back into the discussion action section, having tabled item 7.1 for future information at the next meeting. We'll move on to item 7.2, which is consideration of approval of a change in required English graduation credits for North Bay Met Academy and Windsor Oaks Academy. And we have with us tonight Principal Forrest Harper and Counselor Diana Rudisil from those sites. So if they would like to share any information they can with us tonight for potential approval.
I'm actually going to serve as their Vanna tonight. So if I could get screen sharing availability, that would be great.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
You should be all set.
Thank you. All right, can you see that?
Yeah,
Very
thank
good.
you.
All right, take it away, Forrest and Diana.
All right, so this has been a challenging year, as everybody knows, and this really stemmed from a conversation Diana and I were having of what can we do to help our students, because a lot of our students are struggling this year. And this is an idea that we came up with. So next. So here are some quotes from some students that kind of go along with, if you go back one, yeah, go along with what Board Member Heimelberg was saying about how students aren't feeling connected, feeling difficult to connect, office hours are intimidating, less motivated. You know, you have one student saying, I have 2 younger siblings. One of them's in 4th grade and needs a lot of help. Both my parents have to work, so I need to be on top of her all the time. As a big sister, I have to be there for her, and it's chaotic and challenging. We understand we have to do homework, but a lot of our homework stresses us out. We have to babysit, take care of home responsibilities, and we have to be responsible at school. I want to do good, but it's stressful to find time. I have to get my school stuff ready, or I'm going to get in trouble. My grades will go down, my teacher will be bad, my mom will be bad, and this all causes stress. I'm feeling really stressed out. So when we look at this senior class, this was part of the discussion we were having is when you go back the 4 years with this senior class, they have lost more instructional time than really any other senior class we can think of. When you think of the start of the fires, that was the beginning of their freshman year, evacuations, smoke days, power outages, and then now, of course, the pandemic. Students have been really struggling with distance learning, and it's really taking a toll on the students. Next.
To add what the previous slide emphasized, I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at SCO's Learning Link, the winter newsletter that was released today, but it did highlight the struggles of Sonoma County students and that the supporting data, such as failing grades, emotional stressors, is serving as a call to action. We're hoping that this proposal can be one of those actions, and I definitely appreciate the time to advocate on behalf of our amazing kids. As this slide shows, the California Department of Education has already set a precedent of supporting struggling students. The CDE has passed various assembly bills that allow at-risk youth to graduate with a California minimum of 130 credits. In this context, at-risk students include, as you see in the slide, foster youth, incarcerated minors, homeless youth, etc. We're proposing that the challenges of the last 4 years, as Forrest said, have brought this year's senior class unique obstacles,
unlike we've ever seen before, categorizing them, in our opinion, as at risk as well, and that this should be taken into consideration when it comes to what we are asking them to complete in order to earn a high school diploma from either of our alternative education high schools, Windsor Oaks and North Bay Met. I'd like to add that there are several factors that must be met in order to qualify for these assembly bills. And unfortunately, even though we do have some students that do qualify for some of these bills, many of our kids narrowly miss being approved for various reasons. However, one of the main criteria for all of these bills is having moved schools after the 10th grade, which in as of itself can be a stressor and set a student back. I mention this because 100% of our Windsor Oaks students and the majority of our North Bay Met students did enroll with us in or after their sophomore year. Actually, most students coming to us to Windsor Oaks come the second half of their 11th grade year. So that proposes a challenge for them as well. Let's take a look at the next slide. I can talk a little bit more about the California minimum and how it compares to the 3 high schools. So the blue column represents what the CDE has set as the base requirement for a student to complete in order to earn a high school diploma in California. That's where the 130 that we're mentioning comes from. Any courses and credits beyond that is set by the individual districts. So you can see North Bay Met, Windsor Oaks Academy, and Windsor High Schools. The biggest difference between the high schools in alternative ed and the California minimum are in English, health, and electives highlighted there. Our focus for today's conversation, our call to action, as it will, is to look at the English requirements for Windsor Oaks Academy and for North Bay Met Academy. Thank you, Forrest. Want to take it from here?
Yeah, if you can go last slide, short presentation. So what we are proposing is to reduce 10 credits in English for North Bay Met Academy and for Windsor Oaks Academy seniors to graduate this school year, so to graduate in the 2021 spring. We are proposing to make this change permanent for Windsor Oaks Academies for subsequent years, but not for North Bay Met students. And we also would like to, in subsequent years, to increase the elective credits at Windsor Oaks Academy by 10. When you look at other continuation high schools in the county, every continuation high school at the county, at least that I know of, is 180 credits in order to graduate. And so we didn't want to become 170 to be kind of less of anything. And so what we wanted to do is add 10 more credits to the electives so that we are still a 180 continuation high school diploma. However, instead of 10 credits of English, we'd have 10 credits of electives. The reason why we're suggesting this is when we're looking at the numbers in the year 2022, students would need 180 credits to graduate. All students who come over to Windsor Oaks Academy are deficient in English. So English and math are obviously 2 of some of the hardest classes that students really struggle with, and everybody comes over deficient in English. Looking at this year, 74% of the current Windsor Oaks seniors would benefit from this change, and currently 33% of the North Bay Met seniors would benefit from this change. And kind of like Ava was talking about, all of the stress and everything we've heard of from all the students are crying out for help, and the students are saying that they're struggling and they're stressed. And if we were to gift them this 10 credits for this year for both schools and then make that change permanent from Oaks from now on, that will really help the students, and that will be really a great advantage. And I can't read that last slide. My Zoom is cutting it off. That last bullet point.
So it says
SRJC.
Windsor Oaks Academy students to take elective classes at SRJC.
Yes, and so that is another thing, is when a lot of times students come over to Windsor Oaks Academy and they're deficient in English credits, we say, well, you know, you can take an English class at the JC. And since 1999, or when Windsor Oaks was created, not a single student has ever taken an English class at the JC. However, a lot of students have taken elective classes, and those are the more kind of accessible classes. Those are the more fun classes. And so when we're looking at kind of doing concurrent enrollment where we're encouraging Windsor Oaks students to also take JC classes. If we were to up the number of elective credits by 10, then Windsor Oaks students are a lot more comfortable with kind of dipping their toe in the JC water with elective credits than they would with English credits. And so that would kind of help that kind of college and kind of career post high school with our Windsor Oaks Academy students. And that's the end of our presentation.
Eric, I'll start. This is Bill. Thank you guys for the presentation. I would certainly support the request. I was wondering, in a broader picture, Superintendent Decker, have we heard any other adjustment ideas coming from Windsor High School across the parking lot, from the Comprehensive Brothers and Sisters to Principal Harper's group?
I will say not yet. However, countywide, the discussion is taking place. I know a number of different school districts are considering changing the graduation requirements. We haven't made a decision yet, or really even broached the topic at Windsor High School.
We have heard that a little bit in the jibber jabber amongst trustees between the high school districts somewhat. That's why I was asking. But yeah, thank you for putting this together. I would support this proposal.
Any other comments on the report that we received from Mr. Harper and Ms. Rudisil? Yes, Mr. Carnation, you're muted.
Yeah, thanks for putting that together. I think it was Diane that's made the comment that you guys are getting a lot of the students halfway through their junior year. So they're almost already so far in a hole that it's really hard to kind of dig out. And I think for me, I want to provide an environment here where, one, our kids can work their way out of a challenge. That's part of being a kid. I mean, we all do things that are not wise. Sometimes we get in a hole, and I like to believe, and I like to tell people that it doesn't matter what hole we get in, we can get out of. We can work our way out of that hole. So with that in mind, I agree with Trustee Adams that we need to make that adjustment this year, or at least that's my position. With Windsor Oaks, I don't mind them continuing on that for right now, but I'm kind of trying to get some information of why are we getting Diane, why are you getting students halfway through their junior year instead of at the beginning of the junior year, or partially maybe halfway through their sophomore year? I mean, I don't think, I coached for a long time, and the kids that are in trouble halfway through their junior year, they were in trouble generally at the beginning of their sophomore year too. So is there something that we can do? Is there an intervention that we need to do better at? Or do we need to help guide kids more towards Oaks or more towards Met or something? I'm just kind of looking for a little bit more thoughts.
That's a great question, and thank you. Windsor Oaks Academy is a continuation school, so students have to be 16 or turning 16 in their sophomore year to even apply for acceptance into Windsor Oaks Academy. So it's not unusual for continuation schools to get kids in the second half of their high school career.
So is that a state rule or a district rule?
An education code.
State rule.
State rule?
Yeah, and
Okay.
also a lot of times students, they want to stay at the high school. They've gone with their friends since elementary school, and then by the end of freshman year, they're in a little bit of a hole, and their counselors, their admin talk with them and say, hey, if you take summer school, if you take an Odyssey credit recovery class and pass your classes from now on, you can continue to stay and you can walk with your class. And then a lot of times students want to stay back, and so they start going and then find themselves in the hole and say, well, if I can just dig myself out, and maybe if I just pass that one Odyssey class. And then sometimes as each semester goes on, they get that hole a little bit digger. They dig that hole a little bit deeper, and then they find themselves, okay, we need to go over to Oaks.
Thanks.
Yes, Stephanie.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing this. This is one of the items that I actually thought the most about because it's different, it's a change. And I think, personally, I never failed a class, right? Like for me, it was like, oh, is this a good thing? Is this a good idea? And the more I thought about it, and I talked to some other people about it too, just kind of chit chat. Well, not that I see that many people, but like the one person I saw. And I think it's really great that you're making this adjustment for our students. I think it's going to benefit them. I do wonder two things just to know, because I'm interested. Are any other alternative schools making this change kind of in the area? Are they already doing this? And what is kind of like, what is the thinking behind making it permanent, assuming that there were less crises in the future, which I'm not sure is going to be the case. I can certainly like knock on all the wood that is going to be the case, but what's the justification for permanence as well?
I can take the first part of the question, and then Forrest, you can answer the second part. So this topic was brought up at the County Office of Ed C&I meeting this morning. I lose track of time. It was just this morning. And the question was posed if any other districts were considering any adjustments in credits. And right now, at least based on the people who were present this morning, and there were 30 some odd districts represented, we were the first that I knew of, but we didn't have everybody in the county there.
And then, thank you, Lisa. And then the second part is in terms of making this permanent, we wanted to make it just temporary for North Bay Med Academy, because actually with us looking in January, February, we're going to be coming to the board to you guys to approve some A through G courses for North Bay Met. With North Bay Met, we're kind of looking and going in the kind of opposite direction of adding more academic classes. So we wanted to keep the 4 years of English with North Bay Met, and so have that just this 1 year just for the seniors at North Bay Met. But with Windsor Oaks Academy, every single year, English is a major issue that every student really struggles with. And English and math are the two classes that kids have a really hard time with. There's nothing we can do with math, as we were looking over the California minimum, so we can't reduce math classes, but with English classes, that is something we can do. And English is also the one subject you have to take all 4 years of. So even taking a year off of English and you have 3 years of English, that is still the most amount of a subject a student would take, English and social studies, those 3 years that you need. And so that's why we were thinking about making it permanent, is so moving forward, students would be more excited about Oaks. That was, if you remember, my principal goals back when I presented in September, October. One of my goals was as principal is to kind of instill some more school pride and like happiness of being at Oaks. Because a lot of times it's well, I have to go here because I got, I can't go to Windsor High anymore. And to have 3 years of English, I think would actually get students excited to come to Oaks. And so that's why we were looking at making it permanent.
And to piggyback, I think, Stephanie, and 4 years of English is really to prepare you for a CSU or a UC, right? So if you have 3 years, it doesn't mean that a student, correct me if I'm wrong, couldn't take a fourth year as an elective course, English, hypothetically, if they got it together and wanted to go to a CSU. But I think we're really trying to get kids to graduation, hopefully get back to maybe a junior college, get back on track, and then transfer to a 4-year hypothetically. So that fourth year of English is really essential for a CSU or a UC, but I just don't know if that's the focus for, Windsor Oaks. It can be, and it seems like it's an option, but maybe not for the bulk of the students.
That's exactly right. Yeah, our motto at Big Picture Learning is one student at a time. And if a student wants to take a fourth year English, we're happy to sign them up for a fourth year.
I also want to mention that the assembly bills we highlighted earlier, there's a long list of criteria a student needs to meet in order to qualify for those. We have quite a few students at Windsor Oaks who, in our opinion, fall under those categories, but they narrowly miss being approved for the California minimum just by a technicality. So this would really support those students who do fall under those categories, but just can't get legally approved for an assembly bill.
Diane, thanks for bringing that back up. That was the one other question I was going to ask. Not right now, but is there a way you could possibly get to Superintendent Decker and then he could get to the board what some of those things are that our students are just barely missing or missing out on? Because those are the kind of things that we might be able to talk to our elected officials that are higher up to let them be aware of certain things. And where Windsor, I've heard before that Windsor, we miss out on a lot of money, revenue for things that all our students are just missing a little thing here or there. And no one ever seems to tell me what it is that we're missing. So that way we can talk to, our senators and what have you and say, hey, can you guys help us out in this area or that area? I'd at least like to know what they are. Don't want to do that right now and put you on the spot and I wouldn't remember. But if you could follow up with Superintendent Decker, pass that information on up, or at least do leads or however the right channels are. And then so it eventually gets us to us board members so we can see what that matrix is of things that we're just missing out on. That might be a thing that we can help with in some other way that will help our district out and help the kids out.
Well, I'm happy to get you more information. I do want to say that some of the criteria that they're missing out on is not district criteria, it's the state criteria. So as an example, if
that's what I meant.
The family becomes homeless and they're homeless in their 9th grade year, that student doesn't qualify for the assembly bill. It has to have occurred after their 10th grade year where they were displaced. So it's little technicalities such as that.
Thank
We
you.
have a student who lost their home in the fire, but they were able to move into a mobile home instead of a permanent resident, so they didn't qualify.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would be good information to share, and we appreciate your report tonight. At this time, after hearing the discussion and getting your evidence and things like that, I would be open for a motion of approval of item 7.2, the graduation requirement changes.
I will move to approve item 7.2.
Thank you, Trustee Ahmad. And Trustee Adams, was that a second motion?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of approval of item 7.2, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so we pass 4-0 and 1 with Trustee Valenzuela having left the meeting tonight. Thank you for being here and hanging in there for a late start, but we appreciate it, and hopefully this will benefit some of our students and you can share the good news with those that are wanting to be more successful and move on in the future.
You just made
For a good presentation, guys.
Yeah, you just made a lot of people happy. Thank you so much.
The one thing I would add, I didn't make the comment earlier, but that extra possible elective year that Jeremy Decker talked about, in my opinion, for a lot of those students that you're working with in Met and Oaks, that could be like a technical reading or a manual type of thing for passing apprenticeship courses and things like that. So something to think about in the future.
Now you're thinking big picture.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Good night, all. You'd be willing to stay if you'd like, but we appreciate you being here this late. If you'd like to step out, we understand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Forrest and Diana. Appreciate it.
All right, item 7.3 on our agenda, another discussion action item, is the 2020 and 2021 school year updated school plans for student achievement. We have Maddie Washburn, Brooks Elementary, and North County Consortium. Director Saxon will lead us, and I know we have representatives from all those schools that can share their plans. So please get us going here. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. We do indeed. It is SIPSA season again. Two small things. I do want to ask if we want to take each for approval, or do you want to have all three present and then consider them together for approval?
I suggest we do them all together as one lump. Be a little more easy to manage on the note taking and such.
Sounds good. And then my second, just foreshadowing a little bit, if you will, is that SIPSs are a challenge this year because many of the goals that the sites put into place for the 1920 school year, which we'll start with this evening, you'll find out how things went last year. We ultimately weren't able to measure because we were, as you know, we started our shelter in place on March 13th, and that's how we finished the school year. So we've kind of limped along. We've worked closely together. We've taken a whole new look at what are we going to measure this year and how is it going to inform our practice? And so I just want to let you know that will come into play this evening and as well on December 15th when you see the other site SIPSs as well. So on that note, we will start with Vicki Long, principal at North County Consortium. I am going to screen share again. And there you go, Vicki.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So as you can see, our school members, our site council members are Mr. Tonelli, who is our high school SDC teacher. He's been on our site council for a number of years. Jillian Hornbostel is our secretary. She's joined us. Leslie Lagakis is one of our parents from Brooks. Stella Stevens is one of our TK parents. And Juliana Leroy is a parent for one of our adult transition program students. And she's also one of our classified members. And she's a great asset to our program. Next slide. So these are our 2019 and 2020 goals. The first goal was written to address modified curriculum needs that we have for our students. We typically use a variety of curriculums to differentiate in order to address student developmental levels in addition to respecting their chronological age. And the unique learning system was something that we found that would be beneficial for our students because it would be easily differentiated. The second goal is positive behavioral interventions and supports. And the idea for this goal is that we wanted to implement this complex system of reinforcement for positive behaviors throughout the program, from our preschool to our adult transition program, so that when students move from grade level to grade level, as they are appropriately placed in our program, that they're hearing and seeing and learning the same language and behavior expectations in the classroom, so that when they transition and they have new staff, new environment, that at least there's an embedded structure of expectation on behavior in the classroom. So they would see all the same visuals and hear all the same language. Our third goal was to, and we like to do this annually, is provide families with information that will assist them in navigating their child's needs as they become adults. The that we work with, their children age out of our program by 22, and once they reach that age, there are a lot of varying complexities that they have, especially when they turn 18, they become legal adults. And so what we like to do is provide families with the legal information and pathways to how to navigate some of those systems, because it can be really, really challenging. And then to learn about what their child's rights are and what their rights are as well. In addition, what we wanted to do for this last goal was expand it to reach, we have a parent education classes that we provide for our preschool families. We wanted to expand this to our all across the grade levels and reach out more to all of the families for other items such as behavior, speech and language, and literacy. Next slide. So the first goal was actually implemented. We were able to do it because it's an online learning system, and we were able to quickly add a lot of the lesson plans directly into Google Classroom. Teachers were able to create accounts for students and then even just pick and choose various lessons and activities for each student individually and then place it into the Google Classroom. So that was really actually very helpful. And I was really happy that we had that because we were able to move on that very quickly. We weren't able to implement goals 2 and 3 due to the pandemic and the fires. We normally would hold our sessions at the high school and have everybody come together, but maybe going forward, we might be able to do some Zoom meetings for that. So next slide. For the unique learning system, we weren't able to use the smart boards. One of our teachers has a smart board, and it makes a very interactive lessons for the students so that they can get up and participate. It really engages them in their learning when it's interactive and hands-on. We weren't able to do that portion of it because we moved to distance learning. Next slide. So for our next year's goals, or this year's goals, what we want to do and what we've already begun is to create ways of monitoring progress for our IEP goals, because it's going to be because it has been a big challenge to provide the curriculum in addition to then measure and collect data on any and all of the students' goals, especially with the functional skills goals. That's been really challenging. What we've done is we've created, using Google Forms, we've broken down goals into little parts. And so then what parents can do with the assistance of teachers, if they need the help, is just check little boxes. And then what that will do is that actually collects the data for us and will create our graphs and our bars in order for us to show whether or not students are making academic progress, social progress, behavior progress, speech and language progress. And so so that we've just begun. All of the teachers have created these data sheets. They've shared them with the parents. Some parents are using them regularly, and it's been really working out very well so far. We want to increase student engagement. So far, we have approximately 85% student engagement with all the varying ways that students can engage in their classroom. We have a high percentage of students attending our Zoom sessions in the mornings, and so that's really great. This goal was developed directly in our site council and was strongly encouraged by our parents who participated in that in those meetings. And then the third goal that we have is family support trainings for student behavior. Our behaviorist sent out a survey to our families asking them what their greatest needs are. And based on the results of that survey, we developed this goal to address how we can actually support the families in the home with student behaviors in order to support the students on being independent or working on a task and staying focused. And so what our behaviorist is doing is she's created videos, and we are pushing those out to the families. And then we're going to hold live Q&A sessions for families so that when they have questions about any of the material that they have been shown, we can support them. In addition, we can provide for them any of the materials that they might need. So if they need a task analysis breakdown for maybe washing hands or toileting or any of those kinds of things, we can provide the visuals and any of the tactile supports that the families might need to work on those goals. So that's what we'll be focusing on this year. And yeah, that's what I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. That's a good set of goals. We look forward to an update on those in the future when we can get some more data, when we're able to have the kids on site. But that's a good start. Thank you very much. Who's going to be next for us, Director Saxon?
So we are going to move on to Julie Stern and Maddie Washburn. There we go.
All right, good evening, everyone, again. Excited to be showing our SIPSA. Here is our list of our site council. One of the things that I really love about our site council this year is that All but one member is on their second year term. And that actually has made a big difference, especially with our family members. They are such a supportive, smart, curious group of family members, and they are really a liaison to all of the other family members that are out there. So I'm very appreciative of our site council. Thank you, Lisa. The next one. So as Lisa kind of prefaced, you know, these are 2019, 2020 goals that we had. We kind of lay it out. Goal number 1 is definitely our ELA and our math goal. Our second goal is our English language learner goal. Our third goal is our social emotional. And our fourth goal is our absenteeism. TK through second grade school, we don't take the S back. And so our only thing that's on our dashboard is our absenteeism. So that's why we put a big emphasis on that. With the first goal, we wanted to use iReady to be measuring the growth for that. With our second one for our English language learners, we used our AE benchmark assessment. For our third goal for social emotional, we use the power of being seen, which I talked about last year. I am a firm believer in the power of being seen. And then the fourth goal, we do use the actual dashboard to measure out our absenteeism. Next one, please. So once again, as Lisa prefaced, we were not able to accomplish a lot of these goals because we just weren't able to be there in person to do the final assessments. But we did for goal number 1. It does go back 2 years for the dashboard. And so we did make a little bit of growth there. And it looks like it's a decrease, but it's absenteeism. And so we want that number to actually go down. So we went from a 16.9 to a 15.6% of our absenteeism. So while we didn't completely meet that goal and we didn't reach the complete end of the year, we did get some growth or decrease depending on how you look at it. The other 3 goals, we just weren't able to truthfully meet that because we didn't apply iReady in the 3rd trimester. We didn't get to do the AE benchmarks. For the power of being seen, we actually did meet half of that goal, and only by March. The goal was to have 4 of the boxes, and just, you know, really quickly, it's that you know a child's face, you know a personal story about them, you know a family story about them, and you know their academic standing. And we wanted to have all 4 boxes with 100% at least 1 signature. And then the second part of the goal was that the first 2 boxes would have at least 2 sets of initials. And we just never got to actually do that portion of it. Next slide, please. The strategies that we found that were helpful are actually all of the strategies that we came up with. I think, once again, being in a second year with a site council, sitting with our staff ahead of time and talking about these goals and coming up with them together, we were really able to come up with the strategies that we knew were going to help us reach those goals. So for everything from goal number 1, having our intervention teacher, helping out those kids that are struggling, getting that scaffolding right at the beginning, that is helpful. We also, with our Title I money, we had 2 assistants, and that was able to reach 60 students every single trimester to help them with our reading. At Maddie, TK through second, our number 1 goal is to have kiddos reading before they leave us. So I think that is a really great strategy. With our second goal, we continue with AE, and that working well when we changed it up a little bit and made it more small groups with our AE teacher. And I think that is a strategy that has helped out tremendously. With goal 3, continuing with our responsive classroom, 100% of our teachers are using responsive classroom. We are also doing some other things. I talked a little bit about character counts earlier on. We had character count assemblies last year, which I absolutely love doing. It brings the joy to my day. I tell the kids every single month, this is my favorite day of the month, because I get to call up kids and award them with things that their teachers caught them doing. I've done the principal coffees where I'm trying to get more of that connection. So doing all of those things. Like I said, I don't think that there was any strategy we had that wasn't effective. And so we will continue with those strategies. Next one, please. Let's see. So with our goals moving forward, you can see that it's down to 3 goals. The reason why we don't have the 4th goal of absenteeism is because it truthfully would be weighing out apples and oranges. Looking at absenteeism this year, children can do just showing up to one Zoom meeting and they are present. So we really can't measure that from last year to this year. And looking forward on the dashboard, it's going to be something that's very hard to even weigh out. So we're going to continue with the same 3 goals with our English language arts and our math, looking at the iReady assessment that we adopted. And we will be looking for a growth of a 2% scale score with our 1st and 2nd graders. We don't do that with our kindergartners because they do not take the iReady assessments every trimester. With our English language learners, we're going to look for that 3% increase on their AE benchmark. And then we are continuing. We've already done the power of being seen. We've already done it at a staff meeting. And truthfully, with Zoom, I go into all the Zoom meetings. Other staff, support staff goes into Zoom meetings. We know family stories more than we've ever known before. And it's pretty exciting because we really are making that connection with our kiddos. So I definitely know that our excellent staff is going to meet these goals for next year. And that is our SIPSA goals.
Thank you, Principal Stern. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment on the Patty Washburn goals? No, looks like we got lots of thumbs up. Everybody's happy. Looking forward to getting them back on campus when we can and doing those check boxes as much as we're able to virtually, and then hopefully in the future. I'm pretty confident though that Principal Zacconi is going to look for that list of names that you've had 2 years in a row, that she can keep those parents coming in to visit with her. So
we already shared one.
Absolutely, we do share one.
We share one. She shows them both.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So last but not least, Annette, are you ready?
I am.
All right.
Ready, Vanna?
Take it away.
Okay, so we got 4 slides, every one of them offering interesting and different information. This first one lays out all the amazing people that serve on our site council and read all the documents that I send them ahead of meetings. And you'll see Nicole Gross serves on my site council as well. We have half of our team is returning from last year and half is new. We've made sure that we have representation at all grade levels, and we have some diversity in language, ethnic background, interest in different initiatives. So we have a really kind of vibrant group that I'm excited to work with this year. Underneath them, there was also other people involved in reviewing and developing our SIPSA for this. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm hearing some glitching. Underneath all of this, behind the scenes, there was an ELAC meeting where we worked with parents and solicited input on our goals. We also had a parent meeting where we also asked for input and ideas on our goals and strategies. And then also in the middle of a lot of exhaustion, about 6 weeks ago, our staff came together and spent some time reviewing, and even in their exhaustion showed up with some amazing commitment to continue what we've been doing and then add one more exciting new thing. And I'll share that a little bit further in the presentation. You can click to the next slide. So as Lisa prefaced, it was hard to get our measurement on 2 out of 3 of our goals this year because of the shelter in place shutdown. So the SBAC was not administered. And so we don't have clear data on these goals that we set. Our intention was to see growth in our English language arts scores so that more students would meet or exceed the standards. Same for math. We set some very ambitious goals and were unable to measure them using the SBAC. I can say honestly, though, that the teachers have spent time looking at last year's iReady score to determine what kind of growth was happening and what strategies we had in place that may have influenced the jump in our scores from the baseline in September to the mid-year that happened in January. Our third goal has to do with a focus on relationship building, social emotional learning for students. And the goal is a 100% goal that every student at our school has at least one caring adult. We were shooting for 2 at least that have a level of depth of knowledge about a student that a student can feel connected to and that there's somebody safe for them to reach out to if needed on campus. We did not administer the final survey and we didn't need to. By February, we had hit our target. So we were able to measure and meet that goal and celebrate that. Next slide. This is where it gets fun. So what I can talk about is the implementation and how we're carrying over much of this into this year and continuing, because we want to see these things continue and see some, we want to be able to measure were they working by the end of this year. So goal 1 and 2 over the last year, we were able to implement all 5 of the strategies that we had. And while I remember back, Rich talking about it's nice that your LCAP goals are simple and on a page. I have the same for my SIPSA goals. And then as the year goes on, I increase by a few columns. I put a column where I can note the date that we're doing everything that we said we were going to do. And then another column where my leadership team comes in and says, where are we with this and what needs to happen next? So that's how we try to keep track. And I had a very exciting meeting mid-year with my leadership team where we identified we were doing it. We had all of our teachers attend a PD day on iReady, which supported them in looking at their assessment data. Many students were involved in an integrated ELD training that also involved a coach supporting them after the workshop date. We had high success in creating a very formalized process for identifying and referring students into our intervention program with criteria for entering and criteria for exiting. I Aspire was implemented because we've got a fiery, passionate VAPA right here on site, making everybody excited about arts integration. We also pulled teachers out of the classroom for release days and we had them work on test prep lessons to get ready for the SBAC. And that proved fruitful in helping us think about what are kind of those skills that we want them to have that would help them display everything that they know. We don't want them to miss something because they don't understand the interface or what's being asked. We want those things set aside and we really want to truly know what they know. So teachers got that done. Those are in files ready to be rolled out for SBAC this year. We do SBAC. We had 2 vibrant, amazing TOSAs that were very active and supportive as we started to dip our toes in creating data talk meetings with common assessments and getting our staff excited about looking at data, determining what it is that kids learned, what they didn't, what needs to be done. They shared ideas and strategies. So we're continuing with that this year as well. Goal 3, we implemented all of it successfully. We got some PBIS trainings for several teachers. We reissued our PBIS team and had several teachers at every grade level all across the spectrum in our special ed department. Our counselor was on the team and they sat down a few times up until we went shelter in place, and started developing plans for how to support teachers. They had cool ideas like putting things available, easy access in the staff room available, an entire wall dedicated to the mission of, and I'm sorry if I didn't explain out the acronym. PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Intervention Systems. And so it's ways that we determine ways in tier 1, 2, and 3 and how we support students in being successful with their behavior and being able to access their education. There's several more things here. I just want to say that the team worked really hard. Between the fire and the shelter in place, we got a lot done, and we're disappointed that we didn't get to actually see the measure at the end, but we feel like and are observing that there's an impact on our kiddos. We saw it in their iReady scores in January, and we fully anticipate seeing it this year. Next slide, please. This is the meaty, exciting slide. So these are the goals for this year. And we took, there's question marks by there, but I'm not sure why. But these are the goals we set for this year, and you may notice that there's one additional goal. The reason being, we've actually pulled out any strategies or activities that were in goal 1 and 2 previously, and we've isolated to make sure that we have a clear spotlight on our ELLs. And so the strategies that we have set for that goal are supportive, overlapping, but we did want to make sure that we were looking specifically at this group because their achievement is really important. So goal 1, we've set a goal of 70% more students, or 70% total, will achieve grade level proficiency in reading based on the iReady screener. And the baseline that we got was 41% of our students achieved grade level proficiency in the fall. So we set a pretty high goal, but I just want to give you the background of why I set it, why we set it there. We've been implementing iReady for 2 years. This is our 3rd year. So I went back and looked at the data. The first year of implementation, it showed a certain amount of growth by the end of the year. And last year, looking at even just the baseline in the January administration of the assessment, we saw growth. So I took both of those. I did some averaging, and then I accounted for what we anticipate may be a challenging year in meeting the goals. So we're staying ambitious, but we also are staying realistic because we know that we have some challenges this year with distance learning and not knowing how long this will go on. So goal 2 is math. We've set our goal there, 40% more students will achieve grade level proficiency by the time we do our final assessment in the spring. Goal 3 is similar. We're going to continue all of the things we have in place and make sure that we continue to foster and fortify all those relationships. And this year, there have been some challenges, but there's also been some gifts and some stronger connections in some ways. And teachers are reflective of that right now, what's working well at helping them make connections. So, and then the English learner goal, which is our 4th goal. We're going to, similar to what Maddie Washburn is doing, we're looking at our benchmark in our accelerated English program methods and looking at the final benchmark in May. So I think that's the last slide. The one thing I do want to celebrate and let you know that is new is an interest by our entire staff and many of our families and community members for our school to explore project-based learning. So at the end of last year, in all of their fatigue, I surveyed our teachers to ask where we wanted to head next, what they were interested in. And there was an overwhelming interest in pursuing, building some awareness on project-based learning, which if you're not familiar with project-based learning, it's a method of engaging students and learners in complex real world projects that through which you develop skills and knowledge across disciplines. It requires collaboration with colleagues and peers. It builds all those skills we know they're going to need for the jobs that have yet to be created. when they're out of high school. So I was excited that they were super excited. I have limited experience in my work with AmeriCorps and service learning projects. So we are going to dip our toe in it this year. We are looking at this year as a building awareness and assessing our readiness. So we'll all attend together training, watching, going to a virtual PBL tour at New Tech High and seeing it in action, asking teachers questions about their journey, and then come back as a team and reflect on what we saw, what we want, how it matches up with our mission here, 3rd through 5th grade. And so that's exciting that through all of this, during a pandemic, we have this committed, amazing group of educators saying, we really want to explore and get into that. We think that that might be a meaningful way to engage our kiddos. So we're branching out.
Thank you very much, Principal Zacconi. I'm excited to hear that your staff's interested in project-based learning. Several years ago, I was fortunate enough to be a part of a Napa Learns project, and we were all certified by the Buck Institute on project-based learning. So I'm very familiar with that, and I've used a lot of that strategy in the past in my teaching. It's a little tough right now to do that when the students aren't around you, but it's a great project and a great program, and I hope it can be successful for you. Very good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Any other questions or comments for our Brooks staff? Yes, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Annette. And I'll steal a line from Trustee Ahmad from last year. I love the fact that we have issues that are 100% student participation, like the power of being seen or student engagement, I guess. And I'd ask Superintendent Decker that when we look at those board goals, underneath some of the indicators of success, we take a really serious, hard look. I don't know that merits being a separate line, but somewhere under one of those, like students feel strong connection to the school, we list the power of being seen. The more I hear about that, I love that we have it at the elementary school grades. I can remember back when we would go to the high school and see tables of kids sitting by themselves, who, and I'd ask somebody, the kid I knew, everybody ever go over and eat with those kids? No, nobody, they don't know them, right? And that power of being seen is as important for 18-year-olds as it is for 5-year-olds, I think. You said something, Annette, and I'd like to, put the other two on the spot, and maybe Lisa, when the other schools come in 2 weeks, what is something you'd like us to consider having you be given the opportunity to do, or something you'd like the district to get out of your way? If you had, just think about maybe not all of Stearns is leaning forward. She has like the list right there. But when you were talking about these things, I'm thinking, you guys get the bully pulpit, and these are dense reports. But one of the things is I want us to not forget the fact to say, hey, tell us something we could help you achieve that you wonder, gosh, if we could only just try this idea, or, if we just could get powers that be out of the way. Are there any, and you mentioned project-based learning. So for Vicki and Julie, does anything come to mind? Not that we commit to it now, but maybe think about that. Or you could say, if you have a short list, and you could tell us now because you got our attention. Okay.
Vicki, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly. Always the first thing that comes to my mind is inclusion. Right. Our goal is to have our students participate with the general ed population as much as possible, and just really finding ways to make that happen. And the support for doing that, is parents love it, parents desire it. The kids greatly benefit from their model peers. And so, that inclusion piece is just right off the top of my head.
No. And I think helping us understand how that gets implemented. In concept, I agree with you. That sounds super. I'm not real clear, and I don't need it now, but what are 4 or 5 things that we need to do or stop doing that would facilitate that, right? That's the king that would be helpful for this trustee, because I get it. I don't know how we would get there, right?
Yeah,
or what we would do different.
I can make a list.
Super. Thank you.
Right. And thank you, Trustee Adams. I appreciate you asking. Yes, I'm sure, there's lots of things that we would love, if Lois just let us have a, checkbook and just keep writing, right, Lois? But truthfully, for us at Maddie Washburn, as I stated, our #1 job is to get all of these kiddos to be readers. because I do feel, and I'm strongly believer that these kiddos, that if we take care of them from the bottom up, we will have less dropouts. We will have less kids that are falling behind, but we need to give them that support of reading intervention, math intervention, the social emotional. We're taking some great steps, and I so appreciate how we've taken those steps towards our social emotional, because I think if we don't take care of that with our kids, number one, my number one job, I got to make kids happy to be coming to school, and I want them to come and have fun, and so that can continue all the way through high school. There's lots of things that I would love to have, and I will be happy to share a little bit more of that with you all on the board, but I do appreciate you asking.
Well, and I have one more, then I'm going to be quiet, because I think this is so important for have you tell us what's your definitions of success or your site councils. One thing I think at the TK level, both at Maddie and at Cali, is, and I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to do it this past August, I love to walk across the street from my house when you have the welcomes, and there's those, I don't know, of the several hundred kids, those 40 or 50 parents who put their hands up saying it's the first time they've ever had a kid in school, right? They're novice elementary school parents. And I'd really like us, I don't even know if I've ever had this conversation with Superintendent Decker, for us to figure out how we might invest and facilitate almost a peer mentor of parents now that you have a TK through 2 campus, to reach down and have that handoff and mentoring of parents to parents with people who are there doing students for the first time. Because I think if we do that, we would build that connection, because the parents wouldn't know any different, right? That they're engaged and connected to their schools. And I think we do that at both of our kinder campuses. So thank you very much. I wanted to appreciate how much effort goes into these in so many meetings. And thank you for bringing this snapshot about your schools to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, great discussions and good suggestions, Bill, on some more outreach. I will make a motion to approve item 7.3, the student plans for 2020, 2021. And I'd be open to a second motion if there's one available.
I will second, but I did want to make a quick comment before we move forward. I just wanted to say that it's so good to see you, Principals Long, Stern, and Zucconi. It's been a long time. Well, maybe we've seen each other on Zoom, but it's always good to see your faces. Appreciate the goals. And Trustee Adams, your comment you made right now, it really did spark some thoughts about, tying our board goals to your goals. And I like that idea. I know this year's kind of a crazy year. I mean, a lot is in flux, but in the future, it would be awesome to kind of look at, okay, how can we kind of refine this so everything's in line and we're all working together. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Trustee
If I could just real quick, when you were all giving your presentation, it literally took me back to when I was a little 5-6-year-old kid, and Miss Janet John was my teacher, and she was all full of exuberance, and didn't matter what she said, she was smiling and happy. And to your comment, Julie, you want to make school a fun place so kids want to be there, and then when they want to be there, they'll learn. And all of you got those big old smiles going, and how could a kid not want to come and be part of your school? And that was kind of some of the thoughts that were going through my head. I want to congratulate Trustee Adams. I love the fact that you've asked them, what is it we can do to make things better, either by helping them to do something or helping them to get something out of the way. And I just want you guys to know that in the short time I've gotten to know Superintendent Decker, he might be built like a wide receiver, but he has actually got the mentality of a lineman who is willing to get in there and block and tackle and do all the tough things, and without the recognition and accolades. So I want you to know that the person that I'm getting to know, I think could be a great asset for you. Don't be afraid to tell them what you need and how you need it, and then let it ruminate and let them figure out how to make it happen. I think we got a grand slam with all of you guys. And Trustee Adams, I appreciate you bringing that up, because sometimes we forget to ask you, what can we do to make your job better so our kids are happier and doing better? So Bill, thank you. And that was it. So in the name of Janet, John, thank you for all your smiles, because someday, 55 years from now, some kid's gonna remember your happy, smiley faces.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thank you.
The only thing I would comment about that back, Rich, is that you didn't talk about Forrest Harper's big smiley face. I'm curious about that one, but
That's why Forrest has got to stick around to the end of the meeting. See, he missed out. It's like winning. You have to be present to win.
all right. So we have a first motion by myself, second motion by Trustee Ahmad. All those in favor of approving the 2020-2021 school site plans for Maddie, Brooks, and the North County Consortium, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, we are again 4-0 and 1. Thank you all for staying in tonight. It's been a little bit of a long meeting, but we appreciate seeing you and hearing all the good news of what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
So now we'll move on to item 7.3. This is the, 7.4. The consideration of a resolution 2021-05 to approve multiple subject credential waiver. We've done this traditionally most years, so I'd like to ask Director Canalake if he will lead us through the resolution, please.
President Heights, just for, so we know, we're at 9 o'clock and I know we have a board policy to.
We can go till 9:30 before we make an adjustment. So
Got it. Thank you.
thank you for reminding us.
Okay, and I'll try to be brief. I think you guys have experienced this resolution in the past. So maybe if you've had a chance to look it over, it's pretty routine. It's an opportunity for us to be able to be creative with our staffing, and allows for teachers to be in the right place doing the plans. Exactly kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you try to move the obstacles for our principals to plan and put the right people in the right places. So if there's any questions,
yeah,
go ahead.
Dr. Canley, I was reading it a little closer last night, and I remember, but as a practical matter, when we have the teacher's consent to the assignment, does this percolate up through the teacher to the principal looking at how to fill a staffing need, both? How does this come before, how is this worked out before it gets to us for a resolution tonight?
Right. Yeah. So basically, if a principal and in collaboration with their staff is making decisions about like where to place people, if it is something that's going to require a waiver, like a core setting, which is mostly what you see here, then they do have to have that teacher's consent, and just the style of leadership here in Windsor Unified that I'm, come to see, is that it's pretty much of a natural part of the conversation. I think of somebody like Brian Williams when he does his creative scheduling that we all come to love over the years because it's super creative. He does involve his staff. He gets everybody in there and they work through what's going to work best to serve kids. And but at that point, because of the way the legislation's written, the way the ed code's written, you do need to get the staff to say, yeah, I'll do that. That's what I want to do. And it's pretty easy, honestly, because it's kind of usually the right thing to do to make the schedules work.
Dr. Canley, do you think it's necessary for us to read out the resolution, or can we just do a roll call vote on that after having all seen it?
I think I see my boss shaking his head yes, so I'm going to say yes.
Okay, great. So Jenny, I see you just came off of your mute. Thank you for following along. We'll ask you to do a roll call for us, please, on resolution 2021-05.
I would make a motion to approve the resolution.
Oh, yes, thank you, Bill.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have our motions by Adams and Carnation, and we're ready for a roll call. Jenny, thank you.
President Heights.
Yes.
Vice President Ahmad.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Carnation.
Yes.
Trustee Valenzuela.
All right, thank you for reading that out. So we're again a 4-0-1 on motions by Adams and Carnation for item 7.4. And with that said, we'll move on to the last of our discussion action items. 7.5 is consideration of approval of board meeting dates for 2021. And Superintendent Decker has the list for us to share out.
Yeah, so on the attachment, we have every board date that we could potentially utilize, right? 2 per month, plus kind of some of the specials that we've already agreed to. I'd like to propose that we reduce our board meetings to 1 per month, but have everybody hold the time for the second board meeting so that if we have just too many things to cover in one specific month, that we've already set aside, you guys as board members have set aside the time to have a potential special board meeting should it be required. Or let's say we have something that is somewhat controversial and we need to have multiple board meetings and it's going to take a significant amount of the board agenda up in regards to time, then we have that set aside. I think that we could function just fine with 1 board meeting per month. I think we just have to be judicious with what we present before the board. And I would like, if you're willing to attempt to do this next year. I've done 1 board meeting in my other district, and it's been done in many places that are also very large. So I think that we could do it.
Discussion or?
Yeah, if you have a question or discussion, bring it up.
My thought is that if we do this, is it possible that we get the board packet and the things a little bit sooner? That way we have more time to ask questions in between time. So for example, if we can get it a week and a half before, instead of the half a week before the meeting, then we have chances to like, I had a question on a budget, I could ask Lois and she'd have the time to respond versus she's trying to get ready for the meeting herself, or anybody else. And then that way it would help make those meetings go quicker because a lot of that stuff has already been answered or worked out or what have you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, Trustee Carnation, I think it's possible. The one area it gets tricky is with construction stuff, because a lot of times those come in last minute or we're under a deadline, timeline, whatever it might be, as you know, being in construction. But I think that that's exactly why we would have a special meeting set aside potentially, is just for that one item that we have to get done because it's got to go out to bid or whatever it might be. I don't see why, if we reduce down to 1 meeting per month, we couldn't get the packet potentially sent out to the board on, let's say, the Friday. So there's 2 weekends for the board members to potentially review, especially if we're down to 1 meeting per month. There's going to be some struggles with, I would say, some of what Lois has to put together because it comes in late. And so she's usually up against it. So it also depends on which day of the month we would choose. So if we're choosing, in my head, I had us choosing the first Tuesday of every month, but maybe it makes more sense to back it to the 3rd Tuesday. That gives us that, really, I'm talking Lois here. That gives Lois a little bit more time with some of the fiscal business she's got to bring before you. I see her shaking her head. So that would probably be my proposal, is that we pick the 3rd Tuesday versus the 1st, and then, hold the first Tuesday as an option 1.
My only thought with that would be that things like Christmas, Thanksgiving, those are towards the end of the month, and so we might have conflicts. So, but Lois, I know that there's, I've been doing this long enough now, doesn't sound like very long, that there are certain things that we have to pick up and we have to make a decision on a certain date. It has to be a regularly scheduled meeting. So, I just want us to be aware that there are certain, well, we all are aware of, but just keep that in mind, that there are certain things that has to be a regularly scheduled meeting. So I don't know if how that would work.
It's baked in. It's baked in, Rich. For instance, December 14th. That's, so we're avoiding Christmas. There's only 1 meeting proposed in November, so that we're avoiding the 3rd week, which is Thanksgiving week. the 2 meetings in June, which are required because we need to have public hearings, as well as the board approval process. So they're baked into these dates. The only one, I do have a question, Jen, you may be able to answer. In the December meeting, there are 2 things that are timely, and I remember this every year, but I actually end up forgetting what they are. I know one of them has to be, it has to do with what Lois has to present for budget, but then it also has to do with when we seat our trustees that are incoming, outgoing. Do you
Correct.
recall exactly what I'm talking about? Because I don't recall exactly.
Yeah, it's when you can have that meeting, you have to have it between, I think it's the second Friday of the month. And I can't remember what the other date is, but I can look it up. But just so long as we make sure that that meeting is those, is on, meets those requirements, I think we'd be fine. But it's the organizational meeting is what you're talking about. Yeah.
I
and-
think,
Oh, go ahead, Stephanie, please.
no, I think Trustee Adams was raising his hand and then I'll comment after.
Yeah, I'd be interested in giving this a try. I noticed looking at the 3rd as opposed to the first Tuesday, January 5th is the day after a 2-week break. Perhaps we just take January 5th off as a meeting date. We're meeting the following week with our governance workshop anyway. And Melly Lopez can figure out if she wants to twist our arm and say, no, more meetings are better. But I think, I know from the Brown Act stuff that I do in my day job, I saw Lois lean back and her eyes get big when we said, all right, if we're going to do, a number of days before, we can put something on the agenda, knowing it's coming up, feed most of the material to the board, so that Carnation and I, as the old guys, can read ahead. And then as long as we got it out by the Thursday or the Friday before the Tuesday, right? If there were, that could almost be by exception, but we can stagger the things and get the agenda out, well in advance. And of course, if something arises, inside of that, we can always add to the agenda, right? We have tools that we can do that. But I think minimizing the time, reducing by 50% the time that you and your staff have to prepare for these, which I know stops what you're doing in your not your regular job, but I mean, this is over and above. And if our governance could be streamlined to half as much, I think that could be a win-win for everybody. Right?
I think so too.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, and then my comment is, we're holding the 2 meetings a month. We do often schedule workshops or other things in addition. Maybe that second date could be that thing. So they're just always on those dates rather than trying to fit it in somewhere in scheduling and trying to find out when people are available. I think that would work well. And I know we all like workshops. All right, at least I feel like we all like workshops. So we could go for a long time.
Agreed. All right, well, here's what I propose. And Jen, if you could mark these, I would propose that obviously we keep January 13th, but we make the regular board meeting January 19th, February 16th, March 16th, April 20th, May 18th, both of the June dates, the 17th and the 29th, the 17th of August, the 21st of September, the 19th in October, and we verify, but make sure that the 14th of December will work based on the 2 things that have to occur in December. And then you as board members just hold those other times for just in case, but we don't publish those days as regular board meetings. They're just, we all.
What about November? You missed that one.
What did I miss it? I'm sorry, I missed it. November 9th, yes.
Okay. So November
And
9th.
I'd also like to add that, this isn't how we want to do our business, but we've made it work pretty well for us. And so in the event that we do have extra things that may only be 1 or 2 smaller items, rather than packing up all our stuff and getting to the district office and using the council chambers, we can meet this way when we need to. I don't think we all want to. I like to be around all of you and have public in the room and all that. And hopefully we get back to that sooner than later. But we can also use these style of meetings as well. The Brown Act doesn't preclude that, even though we won't hopefully be in COVID forever.
Right.
Yes, Chris?
That makes me feel a little better in the HR world, because every so often there's that moment where you just, so where I'd hate to make everybody come together for one thing that got missed or whatever. So.
And even though it's not our favorite thing to do, we will eventually have some expulsion hearings and we'll have some discipline issues and things that we have to do in a timely manner. And we'll work around those when it may come up. So I think that's a possibility. We'll give it a try.
Okay.
Before we vote, I think the June 17th meeting is supposed to be June 15th. No, it's a Thursday for that one. Am I looking at the wrong?
Truth be
that,
told,
oh, sorry, Lisa, you go ahead. I was just going to explain it, but you do it.
that was my conflict. It's my daughter's 18th birthday, and so I'm trying not to take this one away from her.
Okay.
I had other conflicts on other board meetings throughout the year, so I was trying to hold this one for her.
Got it.
So you want the 17th, or her birthday is on the 17th?
Now her birthday is on the 15th.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, honestly, the public hearing board date is not consistent with what the regular meeting is. Sometimes it's just 2 days ahead. So.
No, that's totally fine. I just thought it was a typo. No big deal.
Depends on whether we get invited, Stephanie.
Well, that's the next step. What kind of cake?
I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Got to make our way out to Grayton to get something at the
there you go.
little town market out there. Okay, so we have a list that was mentioned by Superintendent Decker that Jen will publish for us in the future. Many of us noted those dates as we were going along. But can I have a motion to approve the board meeting dates for 2021?
Just one quick question though. So Jeremy, you mentioned the dates that you want. That would be our meeting. The other dates that we see on this sheet, are we supposed to reserve those as a backup date though?
Just you guys in your calendar, mark them. That way, you know, if you're planning a vacation, say, oh, I may end up having something. So really just privately though, you're marking those dates. And
Okay.
Jen will mark my calendar off that way.
Perfect. Since I brought this up last time, I'll make the motion that we approve this.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Second motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Ahmad. All those in favor of approval of the 2021 board meeting dates, please say aye.
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 4-0-1. Thank you all. All right, we are now on to the final stretch of the board meeting here. We have our routine information. I have not received any board or community requests. I don't know if any of you have had anything come up in the near future or recent future. So I think we'll be able to move past that one today. Same thing with board correspondence. If anybody has something to mention, please bring it up. The staff association reports, both of our union leaders were here earlier, but have left the meeting. So I don't think we're on that item. We put a placeholder for a superintendent report. Is there something you'd like to share outside of your regular updates that you share with us, Superintendent Decker?
You know, I just sent a letter to the community. I think that is really most of what I would be reporting about right now. Cases are spiking in California. We all know that. It's not looking great for which tier we are going to be in the near future. The report that I've received, not the report, the information I've received is really, we're looking at somewhere past February to start to think about the red tier, which is really when our phased in approach begins. So not great news. I know we're all following it. I don't know how many times I can just keep saying, let's keep at it, do the best we can. I know it's hard, but really that would be what I'd talk about.
If I might ask, I saw there's an article, it looks like it might be in the Press Democrat tomorrow on the CIF scheduling, which is pushed off again for interscholastic sports. Maybe on the 15th, to the extent we can, Jeremy, we could get you and Lisa together and say, look, here's our best estimate of, not so much even when we get to hybrid or we transition, but you know, when trigger dates may come up with sports. You know, could we see a middle school, Cali and high school music ensembles playing out in the athletic field, right, for a public performance or something, and just sort of give a snapshot if there are such ideas on the 15th as people go into the holiday break about what the most recent, you know, best guesses that we have about what, you know, the beginning and the first several months of the second semester might look like. I think that
I can try
with the caveat that we're guessing, you know, but I think some feedback from, you know, you're the pro from Dover about what our community might foresee, right? And maybe with parameters to say this trigger, that trigger, and, you know, God knows where we'll be on the COVID increased shutdowns in 2 weeks. But I think that would be a valuable thing to add for a report, and maybe frankly on the beginning of the meeting, sort of, rather than
Sure.
At 9:16 when there's 8 survivors left on the call at this point. Because I think that's that's the other piece that people ask me about. Well, when will we know, and what do we know, and what do we need to know to have anything be different, right? I think people are accepting of what might come, but the extent that we have a couple of weeks off, we're not going to have a meeting until January 19th, just as a placeholder, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll do my best to try to think of the best way to do that.
All right, so we'll move forward. We have policies, I'm sure, being worked on, items of general interest, anything that anybody's interested in sharing. I was going to mention the CIF report, but it'll be made public tomorrow. Like Bill said, I received that earlier today. No new athletics or youth programs until at least January 1st, but conditioning cohorts can stay as have been used already. They're not making us back away from that, but a little bit of bad news for our potential athletes in season 1 this year. Anybody else have a general interest they'd like to share tonight before we get going?
Yeah, quickly, I'll share that the We Foundation is having their annual scholarship fundraiser. I think I may have shared it before. It's going to be online this year. It's February 25th, and I'm sure you'll all receive invitations.
I think the postcard came a day or two ago, so that was good.
Good.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Future school board items, if you have something that you want on that list or that you don't see on that list that you'd like to have brought up in a future meeting, please share it with me. And then we will be reorganizing next time when we meet in 2 weeks. So then the new president, vice president, and our new positions in supervision of sites and liaison commissions and things like that will all be redone at that time. But as of now, we have a few things on that list that we can work for. And future calendar items, those are all there. We can preview them at our own pace. Anything extra before we take an adjournment here? All right, well, good meeting. We made it under our deadline. We're 9:21. So I would be open to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Trustee Adams. I will make the second motion. All those in favor of adjourning tonight, please say aye.
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 Okay, 401.
Aye.
Aye, yes. Count it twice, right?
All
All right, well,
For George.
be safe out there, everybody. And we will meet again on the January 15th, 2 weeks from tonight. And we'll have a new trustee at that time that we will be swearing in. So thank you all for attending tonight. And we will now ask IT Director Rigney to log us off of YouTube, and we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for